Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Australian Stock Car Champion here on SimShape Casting for the Weekend Warriors. We are here for the finger licking, finger licking 300 tonight here at Kentucky Speedway. I am Carl Biddy. Joining me here in the booth tonight, I have Mr. Steve Poppett. Steve, how are you going, mate?
Oh, I'm fantastic again, Carl. Hopefully you are as well. I know you've been having some back issues, but hopefully you're comfortable in the seat there to call this one tonight.
Lots of heat bags and painkillers tonight, and I will be absolutely fine. Much easier to call the race than drive it, that is for sure. I notice we've got Mark Johansson in the booth with us as well, but just for a few moments as we're out there practicing. How you going, Mark?
Yeah, good, Carl. To have you back in the booth, mate. Hi, Steve. And hello, race fans, and welcome to another night of racing.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting one here tonight. Of course, Kentucky, 1.5 miles in length, tri-oval style track. Quite high banking, very high speeds. It is a track that really can give us some good racing.
Absolutely. And you'll see plenty of speed around this one as well. It's once again, it's going to be interesting to see how these cars are on the track surface, especially it looks like it's going to be under lights, so we're going to have track temperatures are going to be down, air temperatures are going to be down, and we're in possibly the worst car for that condition as they have trouble getting up the temperature on the brakes and the tyres, Carl.
Yeah, absolutely. As you can see there with the custom paints and diecast track information, just with the temperatures. Now we're about 22 degrees Celsius in the old way, so it is pretty darn cool. What we might do, though, just quickly, is head over to Mr. JP for some of the track facts for tonight.
Yeah, thanks, Carl. Now, the track tonight that we're at is at Kentucky Speedway. This track is at Sparta, Kentucky. It's a 1.5 mile oval track, 4 turns. The pit speed limit tonight is 45 miles an hour. Now, remember, these cars don't have pit limiters. They have to control their own pit speed. Race date for tonight is set to the 17th of September 2022. So we're in the future. These guys will be doing 150 laps tonight. So that's 300 miles in total. They'll be racing with a full tank of fuel. So I think that's 20 gallons worth of fuel. Their fuel burn's going to be around about 3.46, close to 3.5 gallons a lap, which means they'll be doing somewhere between 2 to 3 pit stops, and they'll have 5 sets of tyres to play with tonight. As you saw before, the air temperatures are at 69 degrees Fahrenheit. Track temperatures at 71 degrees Fahrenheit. They'll be cooling off during the night. At the moment, the wind speed is at 10 miles an hour coming from the northeasterly direction. Now, our previous winner for this round was Barry Neal last year, who also set the lap record of a 30.756.
Thank you so much, JP. Of course, JP behind the cameras doing all the hard work as we just get to chat away. That northeasterly wind direction is going to be interesting because that's going to start hitting the cars as they go into turn number 1. So that they're going to get a headwind as they go through turn number 1 and a tailwind as they come through turn number 3. So watch out for that one. Could catch a few cars out in turn number 4. As they get a little bit of the crosswind and the tri-oval section. So watch the cars getting loose through that part of the track.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And with a 10 mile per hour tailwind out of turn 3, and turns 3 through turn 4 and back onto the tri-oval, anybody who's actually pushing the limit, I've got a feeling that they're going to have to be very careful with wiggling that backside in front of somebody.
Yeah, it's going to be tricky, and we see a fair few cars struggling actually out of turn 4 in practice, so that could be part of that reasoning as well. So quickly as well, just have a quick look at the old championship standings as we head into this round, round 6, of course, of the championship. So Edward Foster leads at the moment with 201 points. Second is Reuben Phelps with 194. Third place we have Norman Clark with 107 points. Fourth is Kobe Jordan, 154. Fifth is Jamie Curvis, 153 points. Adam Malone is in sixth, 143 points. Joint place with Wayne Van Bullion. In eighth place, we have Stevie Dubb David Williams, of course, for 137. Michael Scullop in 9th, 135, and 134 points for Tristan Koch, in 10th position. A good championship run for himself. So, qualifying is just about to start. Of course, if this is your first time joining us, well, first of all, welcome. But qualifying is a single shot attack. So the drivers are out there on their own. So you don't get any draft, any kind of special help or anything like that. It's a 2-lap stint, of course. So you get 2 shots at qualifying. Generally, on a track like this, you're probably going to be pretty much up to speed as you get around to that first lap. But that second lap could be the quicker one.
Yeah, it's usually that way. There's very few tracks where the first lap will be the quicker lap. Some tracks, it's usually because the surface is particularly hard on the tyres. So at some tracks, and something the drivers need to be aware of is when you get out for that first lap, that could very well be the quick lap, and you need to make the most of it. As we've got Tristan Koch on track at the moment there, Carl.
Coming into turn 1 for the first time tonight on this quick lap. How's this one going to go? He's had a slightly high line at the moment, so I think he's just trying to get this one set up for the next lap. He's going to be trying to go a bit faster in that second lap. Of course, you can run multiple lines at a track like this as well, and you might find that the car is a little bit more settled in that high line through turns 1 and 2. You come through 3 and 4, you drop down to that low line, which he does. Across the tri-oval he goes, and that jumps him up into 4th position at the moment. Foster currently in the lead. Just watching out there as well. Mark Johansson just starting his fast lap 2. Edward Foster currently in the lead at the moment. How's he going to go on this second lap? First one was a 31.8. Second one, we're soon going to find out how that one goes. As he gets towards the line, is it going to be quicker? 30.9. So good lap there from Foster. That gets him up ahead of his teammate by a very, very narrow margin at the moment. JCW in second. Tristan Koch, as suspected, taking more speed on that second lap, jumping up into 3rd. That's snatched away from him from Darren McKenzie, and Norman Clark drops down to 5th.
Yeah, he's just bumped him back down to 5th. And these drivers are definitely taking, because this is a tri-oval more than a normal oval. There's a fairly traditional, what I like to call a traditional line that you take at these sorts of tracks. Exception of tri-ovals such as Daytona and Talladega, obviously, but places like Kentucky, there's a fairly traditional line which is apexes through the turns and then out to the wall again on the back straight, possibly mid-track or down to the low line on the tri-oval. But these guys have definitely got their act together, and we've got position swapping back and forward. Reuben Phelps up to 2nd place now with a 30.92, Carl.
Very nice lap as well. So close up the front, barely anything separating those guys at the moment. There is absolutely nothing between the top 7 at the moment. It is very close indeed. Really very, very fast drivers out there, and it's amazing what little bits of speed you can gain on a driver like this, as you said, Steve. It's just those little tricks, just taking that little bit of a slightly closer line on that rival section can sometimes gain you that little bit of extra speed. Sometimes that can unsettle the car and cost you a little bit as well. So there are all these little tips and tricks you can try. Some pay off and some don't.
Well, yeah, and as always, entry into those turns. If you're going to take the traditional line and try and hit that apex through these turns, you've got to time it. If you get it wrong, you can end up a little bit too close to that outside wall as you exit the turn, or even costing yourself speed. And during the race, that means position on track.
Yeah, very much so. And of course, in qualifying, if you just make a little tiny scratch on that wall, that qualifying lap is over and done with as well, of course, because if you get a little blemish next to your name, one of those 1Xs, as we call it, that is it. That's your qualifying lap done, because it won't count. Michael Scullop jumps up into P3. He caps a nice line across the start-finish line, catches the wall on the exit, but it doesn't matter because he's already got that lap in. I think that's pretty much all the people that are going to be qualifying tonight. If anybody else out on track?
It's very tight at the top, very tight. There's possibly about 500ths of a second covering about the top 6 or 7 cars there. And that's hundredths we're talking about. You want to go to tenths, then you've got probably 4 or 5 tenths covering the top 10, 12, 15 cars. So very, very close at the front there. There's literally 100th of a second between first and second. So the two guys on the front row, and I believe that was Edward Foster and Reuben Phelps, it's going to be interesting to see how these guys get started because they were 100th of a second apart in qualifying.
Yeah, absolutely nothing covering them. I pretty much had almost identical lap times for Phelps and Skurlock as well. It was that close indeed. So let us run through the starting grid as they start to line up in that beautiful, beautiful lineup like the old Le Mans days when they're sort of in those positions. Front row is Foster and Phelps. Second row, we have Skurlock and Carol Walden. Third row is Van Bullen and Mackenzie. Fourth row is Clark and Allison. Fifth row, we have Williams and Patterson. Sixth row is Johansson and Jordan. Seventh row, we have Drady and Smith. Eighth row is Koch and Nankervis. Eighth row is Allen and Fenley. Ninth row is Button and McClintock. 10th row, thank you, is Button and McClintock. 11th is Raymond and Barber. 12th, we have Malone and Schultz. 13th, we have Ariel and Marshall, and Brett Campbell lining up at the back of the pack tonight in 27th spot. 27 cars out there, plenty to give us a good race here tonight.
Well, I'm not sure that Brett actually bothered to qualify there. He may have opted to start at the back and just work his way forward and see how things pan out in front of him. He may be counting on colder conditions, colder tyres, colder brakes, early incident, keep out of trouble, steer clear of it, see what happens in front of him, and perhaps even pick up a few spots.
It's always a wise move. Yeah, everybody from 21st down did not set a time, so they were banking on starting towards the back of this race, try and keep out of trouble as the cars snake away out of pit lane. They will line up 2 by 2. Up at the front, it is Ford versus Chevrolet at the moment.
And I was going to say it's great to see both Norman Clark and Brad Allison qualifying comfortably within the top 10 there too, Carl.
Yeah, very much so. Good to see. They've been having some good runs recently, and it's good to see as well Norman Clark up there championship-wise. He is sitting up there nicely at the moment and well in contention with his teammate Foster. So they are going to be looking for some good finishes tonight. Even though Reuben Phelps, well, he's had a bit of a good run recently too. In the pre-race, the A7 race, of course, that we have before the main event, it was Foster and Phelps in first and second for that one. So they sort of line up next to each other there once again. But a lot of the Atari cars up the front with Foster, Carol Walden and Clark. There's quite a few teammates up there at the moment.
Oh, absolutely. But yeah, look, Reuben's been having a pretty decent run lately. There was a next-gen race at, I believe, Richmond the other night, and there was an incident lap 2. He went a lap down and finished 6th, I believe, in the race. So, yeah, he's on a roll at the moment, and we're about to go green, Carl, so I'll give it to you.
Get ready to go green here for the finger-licking 300. It is green, and away we go. Good start there from Foster. Away he goes on the bottom line. They line up 2 by 2. Foster moving up a little bit higher right now. Ahead of Phelps. Carol Walden getting a good run there. 3 wide in the background. Skurlock down low. Carol Walden on the high side. He should get a better run off the exit. A little bit further back. There's 3 wide action. You can see it in your picture there. Carol Walden goes very late to the corner. That's going to give Skurlock the opportunity into the corner in 3 and 4. You can see just behind Van Bullen having a good run as well. Trying to get up into that position. There's a few extra penalty points offering the first couple of laps here tonight to try and keep the race a little bit cleaner in the early stages as well. So hopefully that will mean we don't see too many incident points tonight. Somebody's just had a big moment up into the wall. Who was that?
I don't know. I didn't actually see it, Carl. I think it was towards the back of the field there. But
It was Patterson.
JCW was a perfect demonstration of what I was saying before about the lines through the turns. And he's absolutely cleaned up the back. Oh, yeah, we've got cars all over the place now. take one.
Big accident there. Cars all across the infield. That was a huge accident up at the front. That is disastrous. Um,
Allison's carrying some noticeable damage. One of the Natari cars has quit the pits. It was the green car, I think Norman Clark actually, and he's got cleaned up and bounced off the wall.
Reuben Phelps has lost the rear here, and it's just flipped. Joshua Carroll-Walden. Skurlock's gone straight into him. Van Bullion. Then Allison got into it, and everybody else sort of had to try and avoid it. A lot of people going across the infield.
I don't think JCW caused that, mate. It looked like Reuben got a little bit loose, and JCW had nowhere to go but a tap in the rear.
Exactly, that's exactly it, Steve. So Reuben Phelps just got loose on the exit. That rear just stepped out on him from nowhere, and JCW just could not avoid it. He just gave him that little clip, which caused him to spin around, and that caught a lot of cars in that incident. That's a lot of the front-running pack caught up in a big incident there, and that is really going to take a lot of fast cars out of this race early.
Well, that's it. And, it may sound like we're harping on the fact, and people might get sick of hearing it, but that's cold tyres right there. That's cold tyres in the first couple of laps of the race at nighttime cooling conditions. And Reuben's just pushed the envelope a little bit much through that turn, gotten it just a little bit out of shape. He might have been able to catch that, except that JCW was really riding right behind him, hunting for a position, and there's nowhere to go, and he's just giving him just the slightest little love tap, and it was enough that because Reuben was already out of shape, that's actually been the catalyst for what came after.
Yeah, very much so, and it is a new thing with this car. Is cold tyres are very much a deadly thing to be on. We've seen it a few times now at different races, and it's been something that's really had to catch drivers at sort of. You've always had to change your driving style because it's a very different way of driving this car. You're almost better sticking it out on older hot tyres than you are coming in on fresh cold tyres, just because you almost lose speed when you're on those cold tyres. So it is a very different style of racing. So we've had McClintock, Drady's just come into pit lane. A lot of drivers coming into pit lane to get repairs done. I think McClintock came in just for a bit of fuel top up. So interesting for him. He's decided to try something a little bit different. I don't think there was any damage to that car. So I think he's just coming in just for a quick bit of fuel in that 16. So he could be in good standing.
We may need to keep an eye on those cars that have actually either quit to the pits or pulled into the pits to see who actually carries on, because I don't believe we've got fast repairs. So anybody with serious damage, they may just simply decide that the car's too badly off to continue. So we may end up even losing a couple out of that incident. But with the new rule of double penalty points in the first 25% of the race, we could probably expect to see a few upset drivers post-race when they cop a penalty out of that.
Very much so, and I think Allison and Skurlock are both out of the car. So pace car lights have gone out. We're about to go back to live racing here, coming out of turn 3 here at Kentucky. Foster is in the lead, his teammate Carol Walden second. Then it is McKenzie and Williams, Jordan Smith, Nankervis, Schultz, Johansson and Fenley down to the top 10 at the moment. Pace car peels in. When's Foster going to drop that loud pedal? He is waiting and waiting. When will he drop it? He gets away nicely now.
Yeah, Darren McKenzie, that low line is going to be very loose tonight until they get a decent amount of heat into those tyres. That's the crazy part. One car width further to the outside of the track, I don't think Reuben actually gets loose there either. So that's the sensitivity, as you depending on what line you take, and these guys are going to need to keep that in mind. That outside mid-track and higher is probably going to be a little bit more stable tonight, especially with the nighttime cooling conditions for 2 or 3 laps before they start getting heat in, but they're going to have to watch that.
Foster losing the rear end a little bit, similar to what Reuben Phelps had, but he had a bit more gap, luckily, behind him where he didn't have any issue. Good evening, Chipper. 001. Nice to have you watching us tonight. Pleasure to have you on board for this race. We've got 160 laps remaining. As all just behind, who's that getting loose? One of the cars are just getting loose again. I think that was Scott McClintock. Sorry, it was Kobe Jordan. Sorry, Kobe Jordan just getting a little bit loose in the mid pack, and that's going to drop him right down the field. These cars are definitely a handful in the early stages. They've just got to get up to temperature. Drivers just have to nurse them around for this first 5 or so laps until they get up to temperature and get up to speed. So just glancing through the pack at the moment, there's a fair few bits of racing going on a bit further down the field, but up the front, Foster is having to keep an eye in his mirror on his teammate Joshua Carroll-Walden, who has got 2 of the Southern Star boys of Mackenzie and Schultz there, right behind him at the moment, as I see Norman Clark just coming back out off pit road, so he's coming back into the race. A lot of damage on that car, but as you say, you never know what's going to happen in a race. You might be able to gain a fair few positions back, 5 laps down at the moment, but that can soon change. Up at the front, JCW running a bit high, and this is going to give Mackenzie the chance to get the low line. They're running too wide as they come across the tri-oval. They come back into single file.
Well, it's Natari against Southern Stars there at the front at the moment. Carl, you've got Mr. Foster and JCW for Natari, and Darren McKenzie and Aidan Schultz both with Southern Stars. And they're certainly not letting these Natari guys get away with it. And they're going to be real keen to actually swap positions with them as Aidan actually tries to stick into the rear bar of Darren McKenzie and try and give him a push through, whereas JCW doesn't have that option because he's on the outside line. So Edwards actually basically there fending for himself, and the 2 Southern Stars cars working together to try and get that position back. But to be honest, it looks like it's really struggling. Edwards carrying a lot of speed there, and JCW gets past and takes the lead of this race.
Yeah, it's the positions there between the Atari boys. They're just moving around a little bit, and it's sort of defensive. The car's very, very nervous on the exit of turn 4. A lot of drivers are just having to do quite a bit of correction on that. The exit, in fact, they want to keep it in a straight line. On board now with Darren McKenzie here as they come along, and you see here as we come up, past turn 2. Making a move down underneath Foster. He's got the move done, does he? Yes, he's in that line. Underneath Foster he goes, and Foster is going to drop back past Aidan Schultz right here. And this is going to give Jamie now Curtis an opportunity as well. It's going to be a run on Foster too. So Foster losing a couple of spots early in this race. I wonder if he's just gone into a bit of tyre saving mode / fuel saving mode. And he's sort of having JCW act a little bit as the hare to try and get these 2 Southern Star cars to chase them like a dog at the moment, to try and push themselves a bit harder than the other cars and possibly cost them faster in the stage.
Well, Darren McKenzie up on the inside of JCW. He's got Aidan Schultz behind him, and they are really pushing to take a lead of this race from Southern Stars Racing Team. But Edward knows it's only lap 13 or 14 out of 167. There is a very long way to go. And he could be looking after his tyres, and he could also know that there's every chance in the world that over about the next 150 laps, anything can happen. And by just simply being in the right place at the right time, he could end up back in front again.
Aidan Schultz getting a bit loose. He just catches that yellow line on the exit turn 4, loses the rear a little bit, and that costs him a bit of speed. That's been JCW's second place again, and that's giving Foster a bit of a run here. You can see they're using different lines at the moment. Southern Star boys are very low on the track. The Atari boys are that sort of high to mid line, and then a little bit further back, got Jamie Purvis, of course, and he is sort of in the middle in the custom paints and diecast livery car of Momentum Racing there. Of course, the premium track racer, and license me, of course, a big thank you to Mike and of course the broadcasting. But Mackenzie is currently in the lead. It is going well for him at the moment, but you look a little bit nervous. Aidan Schultz just having a little bit of a connectivity issue as well, so that's never a fun thing to have. But Schultz has got a run on Mackenzie down the inside. He goes, gets position back. Oh, big run there from Joshua Carroll-Walden. He has to lift off. He's going to have to lift off a lot there. He had a huge amount of momentum on the back of
that was pretty close. That was pretty close, Carl. Yeah, JCW not really counting on where Darren was going to be, and JCW carrying a tremendous amount of speed through that particular turn. and really had to sort of go into panic mode, trying to avoid back Darren McKenzie's car. But you've got Aidan Schultz at the front now with his teammate Darren McKenzie's number 1 car second. Third place, Joshua Carroll Walden for Natari. Fourth place, Edward Foster, Jason Double's teammate. And Jamie Nankervis carrying the series sponsors livery. And he's making sure that Edward knows he is there. He's in the mirrors and he's not letting him get away.
Pressure as you can on him at the moment. That's what you want to do. Just looking back a little bit further down the field, Paddy Gray has had a fantastic start, up 15 positions. Just gets past Mark. I think it is the battling positions at the moment, but the SRM driver is once again working his way through the field, doing a good job, and there's a fantastic battle pack going on in this position from 6th down between Mark Smith, Stevie Williams, Mark Johansson, Adam Malone, Toby Jordan. So a lot of battles going on at the moment.
And in stark contrast to Matty Raymond being up 15 positions, our other front row starter, Reuben Phelps, who had that incident earlier, is down 14 spots, but still on the lead lap at 9 seconds off the lead.
Yeah, as you said, it's it's not over for sure. It can come back to you. A bit of damage on that car, of course, is not going to help it out, but just don't give up, and you can sometimes make up a fair few positions, and that's one of the things in motorsport is you keep going for it, and you never know how it's going to go, because sometimes, well, anything can happen in motorsport, and it usually does.
Well, although anything is possible and anything can happen, we've got 147 laps to go, and as the boys cross the line to click over lap 21. But yeah, look, anything's possible, and Reuben knows what he's doing behind the wheel. So just through perseverance, and we did see him go from a lap down the other night on lap 2 to finish 6th at Richmond. So anything's possible here. It's just that being a mile and a half tri-oval, that vehicle damage, aero and everything, just it won't make it any easier.
No, another driver that's going to be suffering tonight is Norman Clark, 3rd place in the championship. He has got no front end on that car. He's still got a bonnet, but nothing much else on there. 6 laps down at the moment. He is going to be struggling for the evening, but he's just going to want to make it to a point where he can actually score points and get it home, just to get those championship points back. That's effectively going to be his strategy tonight. And of course, a few people could drop out, so he could still gain some positions. Meanwhile, up the front, the battle's starting to heat up. You can see Foster is now moving up on the Southern Star boys. So it looks like Foster was maybe saving his tyres a little bit earlier on in the stint. Start putting some pressure in the latter stages, and it seems to be working for him now, as he's gained right onto the back of Mackenzie. You can see Carol Walden and Nankervis are sitting right there behind him. A little bit further back, Maddie Ray and Stevie Williams are starting to catch up to the front. They're trying their best to catch up. They've got about 4 seconds to make up on the leader. But if these guys start fighting, they will soon find themselves back up at the front of the pack.
Well, what's concerning is that this front 5 have actually opened up a reasonable gap to the rest of the field. I mean, there's a very noticeable visible gap back to the guy in 6th place, and I can't even see who that is. He's too far back. But yeah, look, there's a big gap there. So with lap 24, I'm not sure what the fuel run is on these cars. So they're probably due for fuel, which means they'll probably grab tyres also.
Yeah, so the maths quickly. So just up at the front though, Foster is getting a good run underneath Aidan Schultz right here. Foster is making his move done, moving up to P2. Next up is Darren McKenzie. The gap is sort of closing. I'd say battle. It's sort of, if it's stalemate, Matty is the guy in 6th at the moment. He is trying his best to get up there, but he is he needs these guys to fight a little bit harder to actually gain to this this lead battle.
Yeah, well, that's right. It was the seniors moment. I forgot it was Matty Ray. I could see the car in the background, but couldn't actually make out what it was. And having seen this moment, forgetting who it was we were talking about prior to that. But look, he's actually in a big, decent-sized bunch of cars there, and he's actually under threat from a couple of different guys. Adam Malone's mixed up in all this as well. Adam's having a pretty good run at the moment, as he sits in behind one of the Goodyear cars, and that's 07, who is
Oh, yeah.
actually, yeah, it is. And yeah, we've got a decent battle pack going there at the moment. As Matty Ray just manages to hold them off and in pursuit of that front five, but there is such a gap there, and he's going to be driving defensively. So of course, while he's battling these guys, he's not making any ground on the front five.
So that's it. You lose time when you start fighting. So field-wise, about 55 laps on a green run, 50, 60 laps or so. So we'll probably see the guys looking at coming to the pit in the next, about the next 25 to 30 laps, I'd say. So still a little bit of time. Meanwhile, Josh Walden making the move on Aidan Schultz as well. So JCW moving up into third position now in the battle for the front. Meanwhile, that battle pack behind is still super aggressive. Great fighting going on. We've got Clark Hansen up there as well, battling ahead of Mark Smith and Adam Malone. Adam Malone just getting down on the inside now, getting a good little run off the corner. And Barber just behind him as well, with Kobe Jordan and Brad Bentley as well, of course, the Victoria Bitter sponsored car. Not everybody's favourite drink, of course, but it is a drink.
And Joe Hansen just scraped it along the wall there in the number 14 car, carrying the Track Racer minor sponsor livery for the series. Track Racer, SimShed Broadcasting, and custom paints and die casts.
Little bit of contact between Mark Smith and Cody Jordan as well, just there. They managed to keep it going, but they went 3 wide for a moment. As we're saying, Track Racer and Diecast sponsored car on the outside of it's off a little bit to avoid a possible little incident happening there, because that could have almost been a nasty little accident. Never know, go 3 wide. It can be a little bit risky. Good evening, Gail Foster, of course, joining in the chat. Just saying, not like Ed to yield positions. He usually is a person who likes to just lead and push away at the front.
I'd say there's a strategy in it. There's some thinking to what Edward's doing at the moment. I mean, he's certainly in a good position. I mean, he's keeping in touch with Darren McKenzie, who's leading currently, but without having to push the car too close to the edge of its limit. And he can just simply keep in touch with Darren McKenzie there, and that puts him in good stead for later in the race. Very long way to go in this car, 165, yes, about 165 laps to go.
135 laps.
Oh, sorry, 135 laps.
Yeah. 65 laps.
Yeah, I'm sure the drivers will be happy for those next 30 laps back to the race.
It's always tricky sometimes. The thing that is one of the trickiest things when you call it a race, because you're constantly looking at different little things everywhere. So much information going on. So much information going through your head as well. Keeping an eye on things. It's not the easiest thing to do. And it's sometimes it's easier to be out on track than it is to be up here calling the race.
Well, I'm concentrating on the cars, actually, and just glancing across at what lap we were on, and just got the math wrong, because I've a bit of a Freudian slip, because I looked at 167, so I said it was 165 instead of 135 today. But just a bit of a Freudian slip, because my main focus, of course, is on the cars, as Edward Foster pulls right up behind Darren McKenzie and almost to make a move on him. But when he's moved out wide to make a move on McKenzie just simply almost gone up another gear, and Edwards moved back a couple of car lengths.
Not a bad option in this new generation car, because you do have a 5th gear in there. But I think Foster is trying to push McKenzie into just possibly using those tyres a little bit. As I'm saying, maybe the hare and the dog situation, when you have the dog racing, of course, you send the hare out there, the dogs start chasing it. Foster using JCW a little bit earlier on for that sort of position to try and get the Southern Stars boys running a little bit faster than they needed to. And I wonder if Foster was just leaning back, have better tyres for this latter stage of the stint, and it looks like that might be the case, because they are definitely seeming a little bit more comfortable at the moment. The Punitari cars are looking a little bit more comfortable on the exit of the corners than the Southern Star car of McKenzie, who might have just used up a little bit more rear tyre at the moment. boys behind him.
Well, there definitely seems to be certain sections of the track at one end or the other that Edward feels more comfortable pushing the car harder, which is quite likely the case because a lot of these tracks you'll find drivers prefer 3 and 4 over 1 and 2 or vice versa.
Foster makes the move, Steve. He's got the move down into 3 and 4. He's on the inside at the moment. They made contact. Door-to-door contact between Mackenzie and Foster there. Bit of rubbing and racing.
Yeah, absolutely. Rubben's racing, and it looks like Darren McKenzie's come out of that on top. Edward was definitely in a position to take the spot away, but I think when they came together, Darren got the better of it on the outside line.
That was nice, absolute straight-on contact there, and that's the kind of racing that is absolutely fine in stock car racing. That's the kind of thing you want to see. Door-to-door contact like that, it's not going to push the car wide. It's not going to cause an accident. It is just literally rubbing and racing. Nicely done there, a bit of door banging, and that just gives Mackenzie that opportunity. We've got to say Foster is looking to have a little bit more speed, especially on the low line. So Mackenzie's going to have to start defending that a little bit harder. And if his tyres are starting to go, that's going to become harder and harder to do. You see Aidan Schultz has dropped off this pack a little bit. He's fallen down to 5th position now. Now Curvis currently in 4th. There's a big gap between 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and then 4th. So about a second gap down to 4th position, and then a couple more seconds down to Aidan Schultz in 5th. He's been caught up quite quickly by Stevie Dove. So Steve Williams there catching up to Aidan Schultz now. So they are definitely catching. And I just wonder if they were trying to protect their tyres a little bit, hoping for a long green stint, which we've had right now.
Well, absolutely. I think that may be part of the plan at the moment. 39 laps in. These guys tend to push pretty hard in the early opening laps and then get to a point where they try and just conserve the tyres a bit. They don't know when the next caution period might be, if there's going to be one. They don't know. Well, they'll be working it out as to when they can stop, when they need to stop the fuel and stuff like that, how much longer they've got in those tyres. But the man in the box seat at the moment is JCW. He can just sit back there behind Edward, watch these two going at it, and either wait for something to happen or an opportunity where his tyres may have just that little bit of an edge over the two guys in front of him. With these three opening up a very, very noticeable gap back to Aidan Schultz, who's also opened up a sizable gap back to Jamie Nankervis, as you said.
Well, the other thing that the car has got right now, having those two cars up there, is they can play a bit of games. They can play. Carol Walden could pit a lap earlier and force Mackenzie into a pit stop, try and make him, try and force him in a little bit early with the undercut, things like that. They can play a little bit of team game if they want to. So there could be some strategy at play a little bit latterly in the stint. I'd say we'll probably see drivers looking to come in around about lap 55, 56 at the earliest, so they can cut the race into a free stopper if they need to. Just do my workout quickly on the old calculator.
What I'm imagining is that there's quite a bit of chatter between Foster and JCW at the moment as they work out what they're doing and how they're going to do it. Because they'll know when they want to pit, so they'll have that worked out between them. So it's not like they got no communication. Edward will know exactly what JCW is doing.
Yeah, they're going to be thinking about it. If we can make it to lap 80, they could possibly get away with just sort of one more stop, but I don't think that's. I think that's going to be a bit pushing it, sort of a little bit too difficult. So I think around about lap. I reckon we'll see them coming in around about the next 10 to 15 laps, I'd say. JCW's definitely got the speed at the moment. You can see that Foster and JCW are absolutely harassing Mackenzie. He's doing a great job of defending. A little bit further down the field, though. We've still got some good racing going on as we're just on board with Andy Barber at the moment, who's just behind Maddie Ray. He's just in a little bit of a sandwich with Adam Malone behind him and Toby Jordan. Brad Fenley just sitting back there a little bit. One of the cars to watch out for as well is Scott McClintock as well, down in 15th position. He came into pit lane with that early stint, with that early caution just to get fuel. So he's going to have a bit more fuel than some of the other drivers. and he is definitely clutching it as well. So I reckon he is going to be trying for a long run and seeing if he can try for a bit of a different strategy from some of the other drivers.
Well, car 015, currently in 20th position. That's Brett Campbell, who started right at the back of the field. He's up 7 spots in 46 laps. So he's playing a smart game. He's keeping out of trouble. I believe he's managed to avoid any of that went on earlier with that incident early. And he would have actually had a pretty good look at that from where he was. And he's as I said, he's up now 7 spots, sitting in position 20. So he's made it to the top 20, and with 120 laps to go, he's sitting pretty sweet there at the moment, Carl.
He is a bit of front end damage. So he has got a bit of front end damage, unfortunately, on the right front. So a little bit of a wrinkle. So he did pop a little bit of a whack, but it's not in the worst condition we've seen out there. So it could be much worse indeed. Currently, sort of status quo as Foster makes a move on Mackenzie. Foster gets a good run on the inside. JCW tries to do it. He loses the rear end a little bit. Can't quite make the run. He was trying to get underneath as well. Lost the rear end. That's lost a little bit of speed. And Mackenzie's got that high line. He's going to get a good run off the exit here. Might be able to slide it down in front of Foster. He tries to. He thinks better of it as Foster gets the inside line. Mackenzie's just going to have to lift out right here. This could give JCW the opportunity to make a run right now. JCW needs to get right on the back of Mackenzie because Mackenzie's getting that high line. He's getting that good exit on the corner at the moment. JCW needs to try and get Mackenzie now, but Foster could get this move done. He just needs to get a good exit off the corner to stop Mackenzie getting in front of him. Mackenzie can chop down in front of Foster's nose. He will be able to block it off. He doesn't have the room at the moment. Still needs a little bit more room. He's got the gap. Will he chop him off? He's going for it. He's going for it. He gets down. He blocks Foster.
Oh,
beautiful, beautiful drive there.
Fantastic driving from both of those two guys. A couple of laps there, side by side, and neither one was going to yield to the other. There's certainly nothing in that. And they haven't finished yet either, Carl. Edward Foster back on the inside of Darren Mackenzie and noses his way in front. Mackenzie is not giving up on this, and JCW is all over the back of both of them.
Yeah, Foster just using there was about enough room for half of the Mustang down on that inside line there, and Foster used all of that line he could take. I do not know how he fit his car in that position, but he managed it, and that caused Mackenzie to run up high a little bit. I reckon Mackenzie's tyres just starting to just be on the edge of that cliff a little bit more. It's just that car's looking a little bit nervous, but he's just managing to keep it in the right position at the moment, and he's doing a great job of defending. He's just keeping it in that spot where Foster can't take advantage of it. Foster's having to take that high line again. And what you might see now is Foster just losing off a little bit and just let the tyres cool to go back on another attack as they catch up to some lapped cars. So they're catching up to the back now of Norman Clark, Wayne Van Billion, and Justin Allen, Brett Campbell. So they're catching up to a lot of cars. I imagine Norman Clark's going to move out the way completely. He's got quite a lot of damage on that car. So he'll be sitting up on that high line to let these guys come through quickly. But this lap traffic could come into play now for the leaders.
Oh, absolutely. And I think Darren may be suffering a little bit from bias, so he's relying on car placement to maintain that spot at the front. And these lap cars will actually help with being able to hold the Natari guys at bay, because they're going to have a lot less track space to make a move on Darren Mackenzie.
A little bit further behind, Stevie Dubb and Matty Ray are battling it out as well. Matty Ray just making the position, but we're going to keep him close to the front here because it is Darren Mackenzie, Foster, JTW. They are really going for this battle at the moment. You can see as they catch up to some of those lapped cars. Of course, you don't have to move out the way. You just sit where you want to as lapped cars. Try not to cause any trouble, but you're racing to keep on the lead lap as Foster gets a good run out of the exit of turn number 4 here. He's on the high line. This should give him a nice run down to the corner. He's trying a slightly different line now. He will be catching up to a couple of other lapped cars that are backing it out. So he's going to want to try and get past Mackenzie before he gets to, I think it's Paul Drady and, it's not, I'm trying to see who that was. He was battling it out in front of Foster. But there is a bit of a battle going on a little bit further ahead at the moment. So you're going to want to try and get past Mackenzie before they catch up to that battle, because then he can use it to his advantage. He gets down on the low line, uses that little bit of extra grip, possibly that he saved up. Mackenzie cuts down in front of Foster there. Really, again, super defensive driving there by Mackenzie, showing his form and reason why he was last season's champion. He is definitely showing some good defensive driving out there at the moment, and keeping it clean as well. Sort of that's one of the hard things when you're defending as hard as that, is trying to keep it clean.
Well, Jamie Nankervis has now made the move and got past Stephen Williams, and he's off after Matt Hunter. He's all over the back of Matty, and Stephen Williams is trying to actually stay on the back of Jamie Nankervis in that custom design and I've done it again, haven't I? Custom design and Diecast sponsored car.
Custom paints and Diecast. Oh, yeah.
Custom paints and Diecast. I'll get it right one of these days. Sorry to the sponsor.
We'll get your teeth in right one day, Steve.
Yeah, well, yeah. We feel like
as Foster makes the move, he's got a really nice run up on the high side here as JCW comes into pit lane. Carol Walden pitting. So this is the thing for Natari now. So they are pitting Carol Walden in now, so he can try and get a run and get the undercut working. This is going to mean Mackenzie's going to have to think about pitting shortly. Foster, meanwhile, might go for a little bit longer right now. So Foster might try for the overcut right now. Nankervis, Schultz, Barber, Malone, Johansson all into pit lane. Mackenzie coming into pit lane as well. Foster keeping it out for one more lap. Foster trying for that overcut right now. So this is where the battle starts for pit lane. The strategy comes into play here now, of course. The longer you stick it out here, you might lose a little bit of time on those older tyres. There is a bit of drop-off on the tyres, about a second over the distance. But remember, those cold tyres do take a few laps to heat up. So it can mean that you can sort of make the overcut work a little bit. How long will Foster stick it out? He's keeping it out there for a bit more. He's out for another lap.
Well, what he's done now is actually he's just lapped Reuben Phelps. So that's unfortunate for Reuben, who's done a pretty good job of coming back from that earlier incident. But Edwards just put a lap on him, and he's now put a gap on him as well. So whatever damage Reuben still has on that car is definitely affecting his aero and the draft, because Edward had no issue whatsoever in opening about an 8 or 10 gap lead over Reuben Phelps after lapping him.
Yeah, so that lap 50, Foster got a little bit of damage on the front end on my screen as well. Some kind of net code damage on Foster's car. So nothing major, but just a tiny little wrinkle on the front of that car. I just noticed it. Maddie Ray coming into pit lane. That's Foster ahead of Brad Fenley. So I wonder if it was last. And we've got a caution. We've got the caution. This is exactly what Foster would have wanted to see. This has played into his hands perfectly. It is worked out for Foster, Fenley, Button, Smith, McClintock. Maddie Ray, well, unless he runs out of fuel, of course, but I think he probably will just about have enough in there. He's definitely not clutching it, so he seems pretty confident at the moment.
Ed would be absolutely stoked with this, because it could not have come at a better time. As you said, it's perfect for Edward at the moment. He can now pit under caution, not go down a lap, not lose any real position, and put some fresh rubber on that thing, give it a tank full of fuel, and get back out there and just raise hell all over again.
Yeah, that is the exact right time for the caution to come out for him. Matty Ray was just in pit lane, so it could have been much worse for him. I think actually he stayed on the lead lap, did he? I'm just looking now. I think he might have dropped down a lap, actually, unfortunately. So that could be exactly what we didn't want to see for that, but that's the strategy that paid off for him. McClintock, I said watch out for Scott McClintock, because he took that extra fuel on board, and that paid off perfectly for him, because he could stick it out there nice and long, and that is going to gain him a whole heap of positions. I think Justin Allen might be the lucky dog. I'm not sure exactly what caused that caution, so we'll go back and have a look at that one.
Well, what this means, of course, is the guys like Reuben, who had just been lapped and was sitting sitting behind Edward, will now actually get a lap back and end up not quite so far behind. I think he was only 1 lap down, Reuben, but this will put him back on the lead lap, although not quite a lap apart.
Yeah. We're just coming back to figure out what happened with the auction. We're also interested in the in what was happening, but I'm trying to figure out what happened there. I'm seeing everything captured on my screen. So, chat away, Steve. I'm just going back to have a bit of a look to see if I can spot what actually caused that caution to come out.
Okay. Yeah, Aiden was driving quite slowly there, coming up on the pace car. So I think that was more a case of he didn't want to pass anybody and get a penalty.
Oh, it was Aiden Schultz. He lost the rear of the car out of turn 4 in front of Stevie Dubb.
Oh,
So
yes,
he's
there it
had
is.
contact. So Aiden Schultz and Stevie Dubb, looks like he's just got past Stevie Dubb and then had a big flick of the car, lost the rear of the car, and then cut it across the grass. It looks like it just looked like the rear of the car got loose, and I think that was a case of those cooler tires just catching him out a little bit. He'd only just been in pit lane.
Yeah, I certainly don't think there was any contact there. He was comfortably comfortably in front of Stephen Williams when he just simply got loose. The rear tyres, cold tyres, just simply got loose. Stephen Williams did exceptionally well not to give him a tap there as well after Aiden got loose. So Stephen Williams will be bringing a sigh of relief that he's got no damage on that car from that little spin.
Yeah, that is that's very fortunate. So looking through the field at the moment, Foster in lead, Brad Bentley up into P2, Nathan Button up in third, fourth, McClintock, Reuben Phelps has just come to pit lane, and then it is Mark Smith in fifth, JCW in sixth position, seventh is Darren McKenzie, eighth is Maddie Ray, Jamie Nankervis in 10th, 11th Andy Barber, and Toby Jordan in 12th, last car on the lead lap. So Stevie Dubb unfortunately lost a lap, so a lot of cars losing out in that caution, just losing a lap there, and that really can be painful. But as you said, worked out well for Reuben Phelps because he's back on the lead lap. He's able to come in, get some repairs done, going to get back out there, will be the final car on the lead lap. So that is that's not the worst possible news for him. But Foster now has some new challenges around him, some drivers that he's not seen all night. Fenley, relatively new to all the series. He's been having some good runs, but he's one of the newer drivers in the series, so it'll be interesting to see how he runs up there, up at the front. Nathan Button as well, McClintock and Mark Smith as well. So a lot of different cars out there now. It's going to be a real change to the front of the pack.
Oh, absolutely. This has got to mix things up a little bit. Edward's been in a position where he's been in very close quarters with guys like Darren McKenzie, JCW, Jamie Nankervis. Now he's got Brad Fenley next to him. And Brad's actually probably going to try and make the most of this and see if he can stick with Edward, because this is a prime opportunity for Brad to do something really outstanding here. So it's going to come down to what Brad wants to do and whether he wants to actually take the lead from Edward and fight him for it, or whether he's happy to just sit there in second or at the pointy end and see what eventuates and wait for opportunities.
As we get around and ready to go green here tonight. 103 laps remaining. Going to be on lap 65. Foster's going to lead away. When's he drop the loud pedal? Waiting, and away he goes. Nice start there from Foster. Gets away, cleaning no wheel spin. Bentley just loses out a little bit. Nathan Button might try for it. He comes down, covers Button off quite quickly. This might give McClintock a chance on the high line to try and do something. Mark Smith looking to battle, but Foster has got away nicely at the front, built up a good couple of car lengths.
Yeah, I think that's probably not the best choice for Fenley there. He should have really tried to go with Edward on the restart, but he's decided best option would be to drop down to that lower line. But now he's taken back an outside line, and he's got nowhere to go on the lower line now, so he's stuck on the outside. And Edward Foster marching away, putting a gap on the rest of the field.
Malone having a big moment out of turn 4, managed to save the car, but lost a lot of speed down towards the back. Luckily, no caution flag came out. Nathan Button up into second place. And I think that might have just been a little bit of inexperience for Fenley up at the front of the field there. Yeah, just catching him out a little bit. But that's one of the things, it's something you're going to learn from. And that is something he'll learn in the future. And it will just be something to improve on next time for himself. But still, not a bad position to be in. He's still currently third. That's 15 positions gained in the race. Nathan Button, 17 positions gained in the race. There is absolute madness behind Scott McClintock at the moment, though. There are cars everywhere because you've got cars that are a lap down, you've got cars that are on the lead lap, and they're all trying to get past each other as they've got fast cars out there. You've got cars that are running at the mid pack, cars that are running at the back. You've got so many different big people fighting it out, trying to get back on the lead lap. You can see Darren McKenzie fighting his way through with who was that up there as well? I think it might have been Aiden Schultz, just charging his way up, trying to get back on the lead lap. So Aiden Schultz is trying to get back on the lead lap right now with Stevie Dubb. These boys are absolutely flying at the moment because they want to be on that lead lap. So if another caution comes out, they won't get stuck towards the back of the pack and they'll be able to get back in this race.
Well, Darren McKenzie's certainly trying to march his way forward through this pack. He's got JCW in front of him. But the guy who's actually made the most, probably the second most out of this restart is Reuben Phelps. He's just got through on about 4 or 5 cars. So he's up a couple of extra spots there in the field and got himself into some fresh air. And he's just basically left JCW and Darren McKenzie in his dust as he tries to march further on forward to get back to the point again where he began the race.
Really a bit of a comeback king, Mr. Reuben Phelps, lately. Obviously, you don't want to have that. You generally want a nice clean race, but you don't have anything that happens. You just win it by a nice big margin. But he's doing some good recovery drives. Meanwhile, Fenley back up into second place. Meanwhile, Aiden Schultz is pushing hard to get back on the lead lap. He is really flying at the moment. But he's going to have to be careful not to overheat those tyres and absolutely wear them out as Brett Campbell makes contact with the wall a little bit further back, just ahead of Adam Malone. Just has a bit of a wall ride along the wall, but no harm, no foul. But save the car. Adds a little bit more of a sponsored stripe down the wall, though.
Well, JCW and Darren McKenzie battling side by side here, but they are now all over the back of Reuben Phelps. JCW is must be filling the mirrors on that 06 Goodyear car that's being driven by Reuben Phelps. And he's now a sandwich just about. He's got JCW behind him, and Darren McKenzie wants in on this, and he's going to take the inside line down the inside of Phelps. Reuben's not going to give it up easily, though, because he's got JCW on the left, on the right, and Darren McKenzie on the left. But we've got the 16 car there just getting in the middle of it, and they go around him. And Darren McKenzie now all over the rear bumper of Reuben Phelps as JCW goes very wide around the 07 car. Reuben Phelps' teammate, Mark Smith. And what a battle this is. Reuben Phelps is holding off McKenzie and JCW, and they all want the position that Reuben's in.
Yeah, they absolutely are battling it out. There is a fantastic fight going on right now. And there's also a great battle going on for the lucky dog spot as well. As they, Aiden Schultz currently sitting in that position. Stevie Dubb trying to get that spot back from him. He's currently behind Fenley, who's sitting in second in the race. It's like 2 separate races going on at the moment. It's a bit like sports car. We have different fields and different classes at the moment. You've got the guys a lap down, you've got the guys on the league lap. But that's the thing we love about oval racing is, even though you might be a lap down, you might not be on the lead lap, you can still race like you are because you are racing for that position still. And those boys are going hard. They're catching up to Foster as well. So Aiden Schultz is actually sucking Brad Fenley along and giving him a nice chance to catch up to P1 at the moment. Aiden Schultz is going to try his best to get past Foster soon, I reckon. So at least he is on the lead lap. And then if that caution flag does fly, he will be able to get back to the rest of the field.
Well, Reuben's lost out on that battle, and both Darren McKenzie and JCW have gone through on him. So with Darren McKenzie being at the front of those 3 in that little battle pack. But Reuben definitely lost out on that one. And the other 2 have now put a bit of space on him as they try and hunt down those leaders. But we've still got Brad Fenley sitting up towards the front there. But Edward just doesn't seem to be challenged at the moment. He just seems to be running the race he wants to run. he doesn't appear to have to be doing any defensive driving or anything, so he'll be quite comfortable there at the front.
Yeah, I imagine he won't put too much pressure on Schultz when he gets up to him, and he'll just happily sit behind the car once it gets past. The one he's going to be keeping an eye on is Fenley, though. Of course, Reuben Phelps has got quite a bit of damage on the left front at the moment in that Goodyear Burana sim racing car. uh, but yeah, he's having a good run up there at the moment, despite that damage. Matty Ray as well, having a good comeback. He pitted just as that caution came out, so he kind of got lucky with that one. Saved him that spot. So he's charging his way through. Meanwhile, Aiden Schultz does get his lap back. Past Foster he goes. And I imagine Foster will just happily sit behind Schultz now and just use him as a little bit of a draft brake just to help on the old fuel saving. Save himself a couple of dollars on the fuel at the moment.
Well, Matty Hunter's actually making Matty Ray's making a fairly decent move up onto the back of Mark Smith at the moment as well. But we've still got JCW trying to run down Darren McKenzie, and there's a couple of car lengths between them. And Reuben is not even in that battle anymore at the moment. Mark Smith knows that Matty's there, and he'll be aware of it. Matty goes to the outside to try and make the move, but I think that might take a little bit longer to get done. They're side by side, though. I don't think Mark Smith doesn't appear to have the pace to put up much of a fight. Matty does take.
Yeah, there's a bit of damage on Mark's car as well, unfortunately. Again, he's had a bit of a swipe, and there's a little bit of a crinkle on the rear diffuser on that car, so I wonder if that's affecting him a little bit in the mid-corner. Matty Ray got the moniker of Mr. Sheen because he likes to keep it very clean. He tends to keep that car clean as possible through the race, and once again, there is barely a speckle of dirt on that vehicle, let alone a crinkle of damage, and he is absolutely charging up. Next up in his sights is Reuben Phelps. JCW, meanwhile, having to defend a little bit from Scotty McClintock. McClintock having a good run, as we said. That sort of extra bit of fuel that he had on board really did pay off with that caution. It helped him out a lot.
Andy Barber's all over the back of Mark Johansson at the moment as well. They're having a pretty decent battle.
Yeah, some good fights going on, and Andy Barber getting down the inside of Mark Johansson, who is a lap down, unfortunately. So it's not a battle for position, but it is still a battle on the track. And, that's what we love about oval racing, Steve, is even when you're a lap down, you can still fight away, and don't let anybody have it easy.
Well, Mark, the Swede Johansson's not giving up easy on this one. He's actually putting up a fair old fight. He takes a fairly wide outside line, but he's actually dropped down in behind Eddie Barber now, so Andy just slightly got the edge. Mark's probably decided that he's a lap down, so getting into a real tussle with somebody who's a lap or two up on him was probably just not the best idea, but he's certainly struggling again now. He's got another side-by-side battle with another car there behind Andy.
Yeah, good fights going on throughout the field. A little bit further back is Mark Smith on Reuben Phelps. Mark Smith making the pass on Reuben Phelps right now. And those guys are battling it out very, very hard at the moment. Paul Drady just sitting there as well. He is the car that is a couple of laps down. Yeah, he's a couple of laps down, but he's again trying to get it so he can at least be in a position to get that lap back later on. Meanwhile, up the front, Foster's just got past Schultz. So Schultz maybe just used a bit too much of his tyres early on in that stage. They're battling at the moment, side by side, Schultz and Foster. This is the lead of the race for the lead lap of the race. So this is a important battle to have. You want to try and keep on that lead lap, of course. A little bit further back, Brad Bentley's catching up to them with Stevie Williams. Stevie Dub's just sitting back there and not pushing too hard, and I think he's going to try and make a move on Schultz in the near future as well, to try and get to be that car that's the first that's a lap down. Meanwhile, we've got a good battle going on between JCW and Darren McKenzie. These two are fighting it out. Scott McClintock is just sitting on the back of them, waiting to pounce as well. Some great battles going throughout the field here tonight for the Weekend Warriors series, brought to you by Custom Paints and Diecast, Track Racer, and License Me, of course.
Absolutely, and we've also got to mention Track Cams for Gourmets, who are providing some of the cameras for JP to be pushing the buttons on.
Very much so. Track Cams 22. You're looking for the track cameras. www.trackcams22.com. Track Cams will make some fantastic camera angles, and Zoran always working on some great camera angles and new little designs. I think this is one of the tracks where he doesn't have all of them set up just as of yet, but the majority of the tracks here around, he has got all of the best action you can catch, and it really makes the broadcasts come alive. And of course, big mention to JP as well for all the outstanding action that he's caught tonight, and the beautiful shader he's got working as well, making this look even better than it has before.
Absolutely. As Darren McKenzie is still managing to keep a gap between himself and JCW, and there appears to be a bit of an elastic band between JCW and McClintock. McClintock will get up on the back of JCW, then Josh will actually just move forward a little bit, stretch that band as he gets right up close in behind, about a half a car length or less from the back of Darren McKenzie's car, and here's McClintock sitting in the back there as we look at the bumper cam from the front of Josh Carroll Walden's number 35 car, and he moves all the way up on the back of that Southern Stars Mustang GT.
Yeah, this battle is brilliant, and it's giving Scott McClintock the chance to get right in there as well. He is really coming alive in this stage of the race, and these two fighting it out is just making it easier and easier for them. Meanwhile, Foster is not having the easiest time at the front, because he's still battling away with Aiden Schultz. Schultz really desperate to keep that lead lap at the moment. They are swapping position every time I look at them, they're always constantly swapping position. Meanwhile, Brad Fenley has had Stevie Dub pass him as well. Stevie Dub chasing down Aiden Schultz for that final position of the lead lap in 13th position. So that's it might not sound like a super important part of the race, but being the first car a lap down or being the first car on the lead lap is crucial if that yellow flag flies.
Well, just watching from McClintock's roof cam at the moment, he appears to be going out of his way to avoid that really low line. He obviously doesn't like the feel of the car all the way down there. You notice how he's not quite dropping. He's about a car width from the yellow line, whereas Darren McKenzie's riding that line through the apexes. The JCW is doing a similar thing, though, although now he's sitting down low in behind Darren McKenzie. But McClintock certainly doesn't like that low line. He's keeping well off that and pretty much going mid-track and above, moving just a touch to the left. But certainly I haven't actually seen him ride that yellow line yet at any point.
No, he seems to prefer that mid-line, and it's not a bad thing to do, because that will keep the cars a little bit fresher towards the end of the stint. Meanwhile, JCW gets a good run on McKenzie right here. Oh, gets a bit loose, gets a bit of a wiggle across the midsection there. But he has got a good run on McKenzie as they get side by side at the moment, and he'll finally make the move. Not quite. McKenzie having a really good defensive drive tonight.
Yeah, and he's obviously very, very comfortable right down on that yellow line, down as far in as he can get, down on that low line. But here we go with JCW side by side, having another crack at him, and Darren's going to have to yield this, or somebody's going to go into the wall, and JCW takes the spot from Darren McKenzie, and McClintock's actually still hanging off the back of the two of them here, watching what's going on.
And you can see JCW just running that high line. That's going to give McKenzie a good little run off the corner again. This fight's not quite over. McKenzie tries to get, but can't quite make it. That high line does give you a better run off the corner, and JCW looks to have that position sold. Next up on the list is Nathan Button, who's having a fantastic run in third. We've not really mentioned him, but he's just sitting up there at P3 at the moment. Very clean looking Mustang there as well in the 167, sitting up there just behind Brad Fenley. So it's a good little battle going on there. A little bit further back, Maddie Ray and Mark Smith are battling it out as well. So they're having a fantastic fight position. Jamie Nankervis is getting a great view of this fight.
Yeah, that's Andy Barber, actually, with Reuben Phelps, sorry. These Warana cars are all identical on them.
Oh, that's a little bit further back the field. Sorry,
Yeah.
That's a different battle going on. So, yeah, you've got well pricing it there too. So, there are a fair few little battles going on.
Oh, absolutely. But Phelps, he's lost out big time on this, and he's actually now dropped right back. But there's the battle you were talking about. It was Matty Ray and Mark Smith in the other Warana car. There's 3 of them in this tonight. Brett Campbell from 015 is the 3rd car, but he appears to be suffering damage. So he's sort of backed off a little bit towards the rear of the field. But Mark Smith's not going to make it real easy for Matty to actually get through there. Matt Raymond is looking for any way past him, and Mark Smith just keeps closing the door.
Mark Smith's some fairly good lap times at the moment. He's one of the faster cars out there, so he's able to really put some pace in there. Despite a couple of little crinkles on the car, he's got some pace in that Warana car. The Goodyear Warana car having a good run at the moment. Meanwhile, JCW's pulled a bit further ahead of Mackenzie. Mackenzie now has McClintock all over the back of him. So that battle is going to start heating up relatively shortly. Meanwhile, we do have a race leader, and that is Edward Foster in the Atari car. He's got Aidan Schultz sitting on his tail still. Those two have been fighting it out. Schultz desperately trying to get on the lead lap and pull away from Foster, but whenever he tries, he sort of overheats the tyres a little bit, and Foster just gets right back in front of him. So interesting battles going on throughout the field at the moment, and some interesting positions to be in.
Oh, and Andy Raymond's having a ding-dong battle back there with, who was it? Yeah, I've just completely forgotten. With Mark Smith, I think it was, yeah. But now we're back on Brad Fenley, and he's got Button behind him as they come up on Stephen Williams.
Another battle that's just started happening is Barber versus Nankervis as well. That one is really, really good. So there's so many good battles going on. It's hard to know where to look, but I think battle for P2 is where we want to be at the moment, because Button's just been sitting back there, just not pushing it too hard, and I think he's just been saving a little bit for this stage of the race. You can see Stevie Dub there in front in the green machine, the DPR car, having a good run, trying to get back onto the lead lap. Of course, he got caught out in those pit stops, but Brad Fenley up on the high side, Nathan Button on the low side. Button trying to get up underneath Fenley. Will he make the move stick? Fenley should get a better run off the corner here. He does indeed get a good run off the exit. Keeps ahead for the moment, but as these guys start battling, that's going to bring JCW back into this fight.
Oh, absolutely. And there's just so much going on track. It's hard enough for us to keep up with who we're looking at. You imagine the job that JP's got at the moment. Trying to actually keep track of all these battles throughout the field. And it's all car on car, side by side. It's all fantastic stuff. And no matter which battle we're looking at, regardless of where it is in the field, it's a great battle. There's so much of it going on there at the moment. But Edward's not really got his hands full, but Aiden's done the right thing there, and he sat him behind Edward to try and get that lap back, knowing that's the place to be. If he's going to get the lap back, he needs to be behind the leader so that when the opportunity comes, he can actually get that back at the time. But knowing at the same time he's not racing it with Foster for position. So Edward's fairly comfortable at the front there at the moment because Brad Fenley's got his hands full with Button. JCW is absolutely just zooming in on them at the moment, and he's closing that gap hand over fist.
Clintup's got a good run on Mackenzie now as well. So there's the battles all the way from second down to fifth, second to sixth, sorry, at the moment. It's absolutely nose to tail between different cars, and there's some great fighting going out on track at the moment. Real dogfight going on. Button tries to go down the inside. JCW thinks about going in the middle. He goes down on the low line, going to get a good run on Fenley right here. Fenley losing out. He's going to lose 2 positions in one corner.
Oh, yeah, look, and there's been so much of this action going on, and it's so exciting. I've only just noticed it's about 30 laps since I last looked at the lap counter. We're up to 102 of 167 now, Carl.
Exactly, 65 laps remaining, and this is going to be critical now of just getting those last few laps in. Of course, going to want to try and get to lap. What are we on? 13, 14, I think. Maybe lap 17, I think it is. So they're going to want to get another 10 laps, at least 10, 15 laps out of this fuel tank, and then they can make it home if it remains green. So it's going to be crucial just getting that pit stop right to get home. But of course, somebody might try and come in a little bit earlier, try the fresh tyres and the undercut and see if they can get an advantage.
And what, of course, we need to keep in mind here, there's probably one guy in this entire field at the moment who's not stressing his tyres more than he needs to, and that's Edward Foster. Because with all these battles all the way through the field, these guys are defensive driving, they're pushing hard, they're trying to hang on to position, and every one of them is putting extra wear and scrubbing on the tyres. The only guy who doesn't have to drive that way at the moment is Edward Foster, because he knows everybody behind him is battling for position, and they've got their own little fights to worry about, and they're not really hunting him down.
Yeah, it makes it very interesting in the as good battle going between Mark Smith and Darren McKenzie right now. Mark Smith just getting past McKenzie up into P6. McKenzie trying to fight back, and this has brought Maddie Ray into the battle as well. So there's some fantastic action going on as, who was that getting up in the wall there? That was Maxi Marshall getting up into the wall. Quite a bit of damage on that car, and it looks like he's coming into pit lane.
And this is what I was saying. Darren McKenzie's obviously pushed his tyres pretty hard, because although Mark Smith's driving very well, he's looked after his tyres a little bit more, and now he's in a position where he can actually really make it look semi-effortless to get past guys like Darren McKenzie, who have been driving exceptionally well tonight. But in an effort to fight off guys like JCW, Reuben Phelps, and these guys, Darren may have pushed his tyres just a little bit hard when he didn't want to, a lot earlier than he needed to. And now he's got guys like Mark Smith getting past him, where really there was, at the time, there was a lot of track between those two guys, and now Mark Smith's taking a position off.
Meanwhile, good battle going on for second place between Button and Carol Walden, who is going to come out better for this one. It is a good fight going on. A little bit further back, Fenley is really fighting off McClintock and Mark Smith. Mark Smith is having a great run in this final stage. He has really come alive in the latter stages of this stint, as well as Maddie Ray. Those two have got some serious speed underneath them. It looks like Fenley is starting to drop off a little bit as his tyres fall off. And as I said, Fenley, relatively new to all the series. He's got some experience on the ovals, but definitely, I think, just showing that little bit of just needing to get that tyre saving mentality a little bit better tyre saving mentality for the future. In his case, and that's something that he will learn quite quickly, because he's definitely got the pace. He just needs to get that final little bit of polish, and he will definitely be fighting for those top positions and possibly wins in the future. As I've just saw coming into pit lane, Darren McKenzie. So McKenzie is first to blink. McKenzie has decided to come in now and come in for tyres. So he is going to come and try that undercut.
Look, this is a fantastic drive from Mark Smith, I've got to say. I mean, it's not that long ago he was battling to hold down a top 10 spot, and he's now just put away Brad Fenley and Matt Raymond's back there. He's holding McClintock off. Mark Smith's driving a fantastic race tonight. He's consistent and he's clean, and he's just doing a fantastic job, and he's passing these guys every time he gets the opportunity. So fantastic, and my hat's off to him.
And this is what we love to see, is some of the newer drivers, or the drivers that they're just building up the experience, and they just get better race after race, and you see it coming season after season. And it is one of the things we have seen in all of the leagues, of course, but we're seeing every time we race is just that improvement of drivers, and it is brilliant to see every time somebody just getting that little bit better as they go along, and just improving race after race. It's lovely to see, and it does bring a smile to your face, because absolutely it's really enjoyable to have that happening.
Oh, it's fantastic stuff. And when these opportunities come along, the guys like Mark Smith can really get into a groove and make the most of this opportunity in this race. When we've got that early incident, and when you look at the list of names who we lost like 108 laps ago through incidents, guys like Skurlock and Allison, they're gone now. And we've got guys like JCW battling with Button. Button's having a fantastic run here tonight, battling with JCW. And you've got Mark Smith at the pointy end. Brad Fenley is in there in the mix as well. Look, it's just fantastic stuff. You look at the names that are not in it, and the names that are getting up to the pointy end of the field. And it's one of those races where anybody can pretty much get on the podium.
Yeah, very much so. So Carol Walden, Raymond, Jordan in pit lane. Mackenzie has stopped, as well as Jamie and Curvis. So we've got those pit stops coming in. You can make it to the end on fuel now as well. This is the crucial stopover point for this race. How much longer is Foster going to take it? He had a nice big gap when he came into this, so it gives him a little bit of wriggle room. And just in case that caution comes out when somebody goes out on cold tyres, if they make a mistake, gives him that little bit of wriggle room if that yellow flies. So expect to see him try a slightly longer stint. Will we see somebody like Nathan Button try and pull the trigger a little bit early, see if he can get that undercut going? You could see somebody like Mark Smith possibly doing it, but he's got some really good pace at the moment. So,
oh, we've got a car across the grass. Sorry,
oh, it is Jamie Nankervis. Nankervis
Yep.
has lost it. He has lost it off turn 4. He just come out of pit lane. Back end steps out, just got in front of Van Billion. So it looks like possibly, again, that rear diffuser just catching the car out as it just wipes off all that rear downforce. Now, Curvis does a great job of saving the car. He's going to get a penalty for that for going in pit lane, unsafe pit entry. But we stay caution free. A lot of damage to the front of that car, though.
Yeah, just when it looked like he was going to be able to hang on to it, get it back onto the racing track, racing surface, he's managed to get it loose again around the backs. The rear end's actually stepped out to the right, and he's actually sideswiped the wall just outside the pit exit there, Carl.
So Foster will be coming in relatively shortly. He's going to keep it out as long as possible. I think Foster is very much going for that real long stint. Same with Button, Smith, Clintock. Those guys are really keeping it out there.
These are also 3 guys. We're talking about Button, Smith, and McClintock. And these are 3 guys who don't normally get this opportunity. That's what I was saying before. They're making the most of this chance where they're in a better position than the big names we normally expect to see at the front in the top 5. And we've got these 3 guys who are putting in a tremendous drive at a track that they're obviously comfortable at, Carl.
Yeah, they've done a really good job tonight. The trouble is, though, how are those cars going to come back to them? They're going to try for that overcut. If we get a caution, it's going to be very, very good news for them. But coming in now, they're going to lose a fair few positions to people like Mackenzie, to Joshua Carroll Walden's, people like that. They will lose position as Foster is coming in. Foster pitting now. So Foster coming in, 49 laps remaining. This means that Button is going to possibly take the lead of the race. Yeah, I think he's sticking it out there. So Nathan Button will get a lap lead of this race. So that is a nice little point to have and a nice little thing to have. Nice little tick next to the name, of course. But if the caution came out now, the amazing news for Buttons if the Clintock.
And look, we've just had JCW and Darren McKenzie get past Brad Fenley, and we know Darren actually pitted not long ago. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Button here, because if he has to pit under green, he's just going to drop a lot of position. Unfortunate. What a shame.
Well, that's it. But his tyres are going to be better for the latter stages of the race. I reckon we're going to see Foster coming out. Will he be behind Mackenzie? I think he might well be. It's going to be a battle between. It's going to be closer than it was before. But Mackenzie's going to be sort of sitting in around about 2nd place once all these pit stops shake themselves out. I think with JCW in 3rd.
Foster's back out on track now as well, and with fresh tyres and plenty of fuel, Edward's going to get on with the job now. 47 laps to go.
Buttons come in. Mark Smith comes across and leads a lap. So Mark Smith gets that pick next to his name. Brad Fenley sticking it out there as well as Scotty McClintock in. So this is a whole heap of different strategies now. This is what we love to see. And those guys that stopped late, they're going to have better tyres towards the end of the stint. So although they've lost a lot of time now, they will be able to get it back. So it's going to be a thing of they're going to have to take it back on track, and they're going to have to pass it back. It's going to be an interesting race from here on out.
Well, that's it. And we've got several guys who have just pitted not long ago who are now probably going to go close to getting through this without another stop. And we've got JCW and Mackenzie back at it again. It's been happening all night, and here we go again. We've got Mackenzie in front of JCW, and they are like on a string. They are tied together, these two.
I reckon Mackenzie's going to have to do a bit of fuel saving. I think he might have just come in a couple of laps earlier just to get that jump. But I think he might have to have a lift and coast towards the end of the race just to get it home. He might be a little bit shy on fuel. So it'll be interesting to see how that one goes for Mackenzie in the latter stages. Meanwhile, Mark Smith's done a fantastic job of keeping it out there. He's done a fantastic fuel save. He is still out there, still leading the race as Foster gets past him back on the lead lap. Brad Fenley as well. Reuben Phelps still out there. They've not come in just as of yet. Won't be long though until they start looking at having to come in. 62 laps for Mark Smith out there for this run. That's a fairly hefty stint here at Kentucky. As JCW takes a move on Mackenzie, side by side down the back straight. They go side by side, all so close as they get past Malone, I think it was. They're free wide for a couple of crucial seconds as they go through the corner, but JCW moves up ahead of Darren Mackenzie. Nice job for him. Mark Smith coming into pit lane. Brad Fenley has stuck it out there. Will he be pitting this lap? No, he's going to manage to get across and get a lap led. That's good news for Brad Fenley. Getting that little tick next to your name, as I said, it's always a nice feeling to have.
Yeah, that was almost a case of those two guys not really wanting to talk to one another at the team briefing post-race because they're both Southern Stars, and I got a feeling that Adam's position on track, although he was just simply holding his line to let them pass, that's where Darren wanted to be, unfortunately, and I think it cost Darren that position.
Yeah, it hurt him. As I said, I just wonder if Mackenzie's going to have to do some fuel saving latterly in this stint to make it home. I've just got a feeling he might be a bit shy on fuel by a good lap or two. So I think he's sort of hoping for a late caution here, Mackenzie, because otherwise he might be in a little bit of trouble in the latter stages of this race. He's taken sort of come in to get those early sort of treats with the fresh tyres, but it might hurt a little bit for his stint length.
Yeah, Brad Fenley's now in the pits.
That's one for him. Stevie Dubb, will he be popping into pit lane? Yes, he will be. So make it about 65 laps on fuel. So we have to do some working.
Phelps in the pits. So Reuben's in, Fenley's in, and Stevie Williams is in. So this is going to be a little bit interesting. We've got 40 laps left in this, so these guys are set up for a run to the end now. As we just continue to take a decent look at where we are. Edward Foster back in the lead of this one on lap 127. Carol Walden is, I think, behind him. Carol Walden behind him. Then Darren Mackenzie, Matt Raymond, McClintock in 5th, Smith 6th, Kobe Jordan in 7th, Andy Barber 8th, Stephen Williams is up to 9th, and Reuben Phelps in 10th position. He's just lost that to Aiden Schultz, who's actually just now moved up past Stephen Williams because those two guys were in the pits. So Schultz is back up to 9th now, and we got Fenley in 12th, Hutton 13th, Adzariel in 14th. Nice to see he's still circulating, and he's now past Fenley, who just pitted.
A disaster for Fenley, who got a penalty in pit lane by the looks of things. So he had an extra long stop time, same as Button as well. So Nathan Button and Fenley both got penalties. Real disaster for their race because they were having a great run up at the top of the field. But that penalty in pit lane is going to cost them a lot of positions. About 55 seconds stationary in pit lane. That is a painful one to serve.
Yeah, and for anybody who wants to know, Norman Clark's still circulating. He's not out of this, although he is several laps down, and he's got a lot of damage to that car, so he's not carrying a lot of speed. There's not a lot of aero left in the front of that vehicle. But Norman being Norman, he's hanging in there. As here we go. And Aiden Schultz has actually made a move on Brad Fenley now. He's put himself into that position, and Brad Fenley's just lost that spot, which is down to the long pit stop.
Yeah, that's it. Painful there. And that, look, as you can attest, Steve, when you get those penalties in pit lane, it is so painful sitting there and just seeing all of that time lost, especially when you're having a good race.
Oh, look, it's sim racing. It's not real. But the fact is, you're in the car and you're going, come on, come on, come on, come on. So when you see the real world NASCAR guys in the pits and they're in the car and they're animated, the hands are going and they're going, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. You can understand what they're going through and why they're being so animated in the car.
Yeah, you really get that feeling. And but that's the thing is, sim racing is it's not quite as physical as full metal racing, but you still get the same adrenaline rush.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you want to do well. When you've got the littlest thing go wrong, you get a black flag because you went 2 kilometres an hour or 2 miles per hour over just as you crossed the line on the pit exit, and you've got to come back in and serve it. I've had races where I've had 3 attempts at getting to serve a black flag penalty because there's been caution just as I'm about to come in, and then I try again later, and there's another caution. So you've only got a certain amount of time to serve these penalties, and they've got to be served under green. For anybody who out there watching who's not aware of it, you cannot serve a black flag penalty under yellow. So you can't come in and do your pit stop and serve the penalty. You've got to go out, come back in, serve it, green flag under race conditions.
Absolutely, and that's when it's the most painful as well. Matty Ray having a solid charge up in P4 at the moment. 14 positions gained in this race. He's trying to catch up to Darren McKenzie. So there's a little bit of difference on their stint time at the moment, but it sort of settled itself out. Foster has got a good 7-second lead over Joshua Carroll Walden at the moment. He's looking pretty solid at the front as it stands. Darren McKenzie, meanwhile, is starting possibly to struggle a little bit as the stint goes on. Of course, he pushed a bit harder earlier on in the stint, and that could be coming to play. Sort of comes back here at this time of the stint. Fuel-wise, he should be fine, but he's got to keep an eye on his mirrors for Matty Ray. He's got a few cars to get through before he can get to Mackenzie. But Mackenzie's having a solid run at the moment up in P3. But Matty Ray could well get up there if he's got a chance. Watch out for Mark Smith as well, latterly in this race. We saw him having good charge towards the end of the last stint. If he has another solid run like that, we could see him moving up possibly to P5.
Well, it's easy to see how fast a race can change. Brad Fenley's now 2 laps down in 14th position. He needs to get his head back in this. He'll be kicking himself over it. He may very well still be sitting in the car stewing over that penalty and that long pit stop and that sort of stuff. He needs to just get his head back into it and just fight on. We've still got 30 laps in this race. It's not too late for him to just get somewhere by just concentrating, getting his head down, his backside up, and getting on with the job and getting his head back in the game.
That is it. And, well, we got a nice bit of green period here, Steve. Let's go for a trivia question. I brought this out onto a stream. Nice clean racing. So 156 miles to the north of our current location at Kentucky Motor Speedway in the lovely town of Sparta, Kentucky. There is a town called Corbin. What was founded in this position? Let's see if Steve can get this one.
Colonel
What was
Sanders'
that?
house.
Well, my psychic abilities work really well, so I'm going to guess it was Colonel Sanders' house.
What's the birthplace of KFC? Yes, JP got that one. That is where KFC founded off the Kentucky Fried Chicken business back in the early something or others. What was it? The 1930s, I think it was. Back in the Depression, selling it on the curbside. So yeah, that's where KFC founded. Here for the finger licking 300 even here at Kentucky Speedway. So I thought I'd crack out that trivia because I thought that would be crucial for tonight's race.
That's brilliant stuff, actually. I certainly wasn't aware of that until now. But since we're on the subject of a bit of trivia, the most laps, the driver who's done the most laps at this track overall is Kyle Busch. You know how many laps that he's done around Kentucky?
Well, I would not have the foggiest if I didn't have it right in front of me, unfortunately. So,
I'm the same, mate. It's only because
yeah.
I've got it written here in front of me. But for the information to those watching the coverage, the most laps at Kentucky have been completed by Kyle Busch, and it was 2,679 laps for 4,018.5 miles. That's a lot of laps around this track.
It is a long distance indeed. It's something that you tend to forget with oval racing. Is you cover so much distance in so little time. 300 miles tonight is a long distance indeed. And it goes by so quickly, of course, because you're doing such incredible speed. It's great to see, and that's 480 kilometers. In sort of Aussie terms and kilometers way. And you're doing sort of speeds up to 200 and back to 280, 290 kilometers per hour on the straight. Through the corners, you're dropping down to about 240 kilometers per hour. It is a very, very fast thing indeed.
Well, interestingly, the same guy, Kyle Busch, has the most laps led. He's led 630 laps around this track. But the part I find particularly curious is that the track opened in June 2000, and the driver with the most wins here is Brad Keselowski, but he only has 3 wins here in 22 years. Nobody else has got more wins than he has, and it's only 3 wins.
Yeah, look, one of those odd little stats. I think it's a big thing about this speedway. Kentucky Speedway is a track that tends to be tricky and it tends to catch drivers out. It's not the easiest track to run on, and that says everything with the fact that somebody's only got 3 victories, because normally in NASCAR terms you get drivers with their favorite tracks and it tends to be more towards the double digits than anything else, especially in that time period. And we have seen that Kentucky has brought us a number of different victors over the years. But Brad Keselowski has had a fantastic run in the Cup Series, of course. But yeah, it is one of those tracks that does tend to breed a couple of different sort of winners. I think Martin Truex Jr. has got a good couple of wins here as well. He had a good couple of runs back in the mid 2000s, like mid to late 2000s. But it does tend to bring a few different winners here at Kentucky.
As we've actually got a few cars on the screen at the moment with another one of those battles. We've got Aiden Schill's about to take a position. I don't know whether they're actually racing position with Paul Grady in the 129 car, and JCW all over the back of Paul Grady. And the 3 of those are actually chasing down Brad Fenley, although I think he's actually a couple of laps down on these guys. I know he's a couple of laps down on JCW, but I'm just not, Hills is 1 lap down on JCW, so he's trying actually not to go another lap down there. But Reuben Phelps is a lap down, but he's still in 11th position after that drive back from the disaster earlier on.
That is it. Gail Foster in the YouTube comments just asking, what year did KFC come to Australia? Now, that is a good one because I've got no clue. I do know it was around 1987 for England. That was the north of England it came to. I think it was Yorkshire. But Australia, I've got no clue.
I don't know the actual year, but I remember getting KFC as a kid, with the family and that sort of stuff. I would have to, if I had to hazard a guess, I would have to probably say something around 1973.
1973 for Steve. That's we've got one in. I will hazard a guess at 1982. But
well, I'm obviously a lot older than you, mate. So when I was a kid, it was the 70s, not the 80s. So
that's it. Well, look, don't sound that old, Steve. We all know that you're young.
Yeah, until I turned the webcam on.
Even then, the webcam adds about 50 years to us.
Yeah, it must add a lot of grey to my beard too. I'll have to do something about that grayscale gain on the webcam.
2 years after the decimal currency in Australia as well, which does not help me at all either.
Oh,
No
okay.
idea.
Well, that makes it 1968. That's a lot earlier than I thought.
See, it's hard for me. I don't know my Australian history that
Yeah,
well.
we went to decimal. Oh, we've got Aidan Schultz getting a touch up from Brad Fenley there as we interrupt the chit chat and the trivia. Yeah, Aidan made a move on Brad. Brad he was a little bit too close, and Brad touched him up on the left hand side there, and Aidan got loose, but he's recovered from it very well. Great catch from Aidan. Great piece of driving. He's got Stephen Williams all over the back of him now, and JCW wants a piece of this, and Brad Fenley's missed out big time on that. So when he's actually contacted Aidan, he must have lifted his foot to get out of it, and now he's struggling and trying to fight his way back in amongst these other three.
Yeah, this has been really good result for Stevie Dub. He's caught right up to the back of Aidan Schultz, and this could be the opportunity for him to be the first car a lap down as well. So this is big news for Stevie Dub, who's trying to get around Aidan Schultz at the moment. DPR versus Southern Star as it stands. JCW just easing off a little bit, currently in P2. He's got a bit of a gap between himself and Darren McKenzie. McKenzie is slightly catching, but he has got a bit of a gap, so I think he's just lifting out a little bit just to get away from this fight. And it was 1968. The pulpit. Back was oh,
Yeah.
and Stevie Dub just catches the wall. He just scrapes the wall a little bit, pushing a bit too hard, and it's going to hurt his momentum a little bit. That's going to give Aidan Schultz in P9.
Well, it also actually gives JCW a little bit more momentum, but he doesn't appear to have been able to capitalise on what just happened with Stephen Williams. He's still several car lengths back behind him. So, well, once again, he's closing the gap and then it stretches back out again. But I would have thought JCW may have even got past him there because of the momentum lost by Stephen Williams, but it didn't happen.
So, and he's going to want to try and get past these two cars quickly because it's actually holding them up a little bit and causing McKenzie to catch up. McKenzie is only about 2 seconds off at the moment from JCW. So this is the race for P9 and 10 at the moment between Stephen W and Aidan Schultz. They are battling it out as they just get past the 123 there of just get past Paul Drady there. Sorry, the 129.
129. Yep. Yeah, and for anybody interested, our race leader from a little while ago, Button, is now 2 laps down and sitting back in about 14th or something position, 12th to 14th position. So, unfortunately, that run that he had going was, probably that pit stop was the worst thing that could have happened to him.
Ooh, Matty Raymond pit lane. Interesting. Matty Raymond coming into pit lane. What is that for? Fuel. What? Right. Surely he's got fuel on board. He's coming for fuel. He's just coming for a little splash of fuel. That's
interesting.
Interesting. Yeah, that's weird. So maybe you think they would have fuel to the end, but maybe Matty Ray knows something that we don't.
He may have also modified the amount of fuel that went in on that last pit stop, thinking that's all he needed, and he was trying to stretch it out so he just basically had enough to get across the line, and he obviously miscalculated and decided to do a splash and dash. We've got about 10 laps to go, 11 laps to go. So he's obviously decided that's the way it is. Lap 157. And just looking at who's actually where, I from about position 6 backwards, I think everybody's at least a lap down now.
P5 is the only car on the lead lap here for the finger-licking 300 here at Kentucky Speedway for the Australian Stock Car Championship, brought to you by Custom Paints, Diecast, of course, SimShed Broadcasting, as well as License Me and Track Racer, of course. Big thank you to all of those guys, and Track Cams for Gourmet as ever. But yeah, all of the cars, there's barely anyone on that lead lap now. It's down to Scott McClintock, who is the final car on the lead lap at the moment. Meanwhile, JCW's on a bit of a charge as he's got some clean air at last. Just getting a little bit of a run now and starting a little bit of a gap over McKenzie. It is Foster in the lead. Looking a little bit further back, the battle has got back on between Aiden Schultz and Stevie Dubs. Stevie Dubs still trying to get past Aiden Schultz for 7th place now. So for 8th place now, they're just behind Andy Barber and Kobe Jordan. Kobe Jordan having a good run up to P6 at the moment. So some good runs out there tonight, and a few different places up in the top 10.
That's actually what sort of threw me when I was saying about like position 6 backward for a lap down, because I noticed Andy Barber in the 05 car was a lap down, and yet it said he was in position 7, and I just sort of took a second to sort of comprehend that. So we've only got the top 5 that are actually on the lead lap at the moment.
Yeah, it is really, really. It's chugging along nicely, this race, but yeah, a lot of cars getting caught out in that early caution, of course, when they had pitted, and that drops a lot of cars off the lead lap, unfortunately. We've got 6 remaining now. We're on lap 161 of 167. It is Foster in the lead for Natari, Joshua Carroll in second for Natari, Darren McKenzie with Southern Stars in 3rd position, Mark Smith for Warana Auto Care Sim Racing in 4th position, 5th for Scotty McClintock, 6th for Kobe Jordan, Andy Barber in 7th, Aiden Schultz in 8th, Stevie Williams in 9th position, and Maddie Ray in 10th. So that sort of splash and dash cost him a little bit, but he's still in the top 10 at least.
Well, it's quite a while since we've had our last caution period as well, Carl. So a lot of these guys are having to pit under green, and that's what's actually costing them a lap or two.
Yeah. It's really made a difference for the strategy, and it's great to see. It's been good to see some clean racing out there tonight. Not too many cautions. We had a couple, but not too many indeed, and that is always a nice thing to see.
And I'm certainly not going to make the mistake I made the other night. I'm not going to give Edward a rap at the moment, because I did it the other night, and within about 3 seconds he came together with Michael Spurlock. So that's not happening.
Exactly. Yeah, you've got to be careful with the old commentators, Curse. They're strong things. One to watch out for, though, is Mark Smith. He is on an absolute charge at the moment, and Darren McKenzie could be in trouble for that P3. Mark Smith could well get that P3. I said watch out for Mark Smith in the latter stages of this race. He is on an absolute fire, and again, he is absolutely saved that car for the last few minutes of the race. 4 laps remaining, and he is catching. He is right on the back of Darren McKenzie at the moment. Mark Smith in the 07 on an absolute flyer. He has got one of the Southern Stars on the outside. That would be Adam Malone, getting a really nice run underneath at the moment. On the back, Darren McKenzie. Following him at the moment is Jamie Curvis, a fair few laps down, but he's sort of sitting in there at the moment. But Mark Smith is on an absolute flyer for the last of the podium positions. 3.5 laps remaining. Mark Smith looks to have some really good speed in the car.
Yeah, absolutely. McKenzie knows he's there, and Mark's got a lot of speed in that car as they come up upon Brad Fenley. And neither Brad in front nor Adam Malone and Damien Curvis are a danger as far as positions are concerned. This really is between Smith and McKenzie, as Smith takes the inside line. They're side by side.
McKenzie trying to cut down, can't quite do it, loses out, and Mark Smith gets the position. A beautiful move there from the 07 of Mark Smith.
Oh, absolutely, and that's just a continuation of the great drive that he's put in tonight. He's now off after JCW, but I think there's a bit of a gap there, so I don't know whether he's actually going to catch it.
In 1.5 laps, he's got 5 seconds to make up. That's going to be a heck of a thing to do. Not the easiest of, not the easiest cars to pass, but 5 seconds are a lot to ask here. As Foster take the white flag as he comes around here for Finger Licking 300 here on Simshed Broadcasting for the Weekend Warriors Australian Stock Car Championship, brought to you by Custom Paints and Diecast. Foster is coming around for his final lap now in the Natari car. Only 0.6 of a lap remaining, a couple more corners, and he is going to be taking out this victory. Just cruising it home now, as only the top 5 will finish on the lead lap, and it is Foster going to be coming across the line unless something terrible happens right now to take victory here tonight. A dominating drive from start to finish for Edward Foster, taking the win. Joshua Carroll Walden coming home for 2nd place at the moment, comes up to the line and takes the flag. 3rd place is going to be Mark Smith. A brilliant drive from Mark Smith tonight, from 14th to 3rd. Darren McKenzie comes home in 4th. Scott McClintock in fifth, Toby Jordan in sixth, Andy Barber seventh, eighth for Aidan Schultz, ninth for Stevie Williams, and 10th for Maddie Ray.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. Reuben Phelps crossed the line behind Edward there, but back in 11th spot and a couple of laps down. Button in 12th, Ads Ariel 13th, Fenley 14th after that penalty on the pit stop. Malone in 15th, Kristen Kosh will register as 16th, Brett Campbell 17th, Paul Grady 18th, Marshall 19th, and Curvis 20th. Norman Clark hung in there, I think, to finish the race in 21st, so he'll pick up some nice points for the championship. Mark the Swede Johansson in 22nd, Van Billion in 23rd, Allen 24th, and Stuart Patterson rounding out the top 25.
That's Stevie Johansson out there tonight, trying to get those championship points to become the best of the in-car commentators in the championship. It is a very tense battle between himself and me at the moment, so we'll see who can win that over the season.
Yeah, unfortunately, I haven't done enough rounds of this championship to be able to compete for that. We'll see what happens at the next 2 or 3 super speedways that are coming up.
So all you need to do, Mark, is win one race. You've got us both beat, so you're fine.
We'll see what happens at Daytona and Talladega and see if I can pick up some points. We'll have our own little 3-way competition.
That is it. No, fantastic night of racing here at Kentucky for the finger-licking 300, as we said, brought to you by Track Racer, custom pace and diecast, license me, of course, and Track Camps for Gourmet, Track Camps 22. Big thank you to all of those boys, but demanding and commanding victory there. Natari taking 1-2 tonight. They're going to be super happy with that one. And Mark Smith, a really good drive from himself tonight, really putting himself up there for that top 3 finish. Biggest gainers of the night was Scotty McClintock with 15 positions, Andy Barber 15 positions, Aidan Schultz 16 positions. Nice big gains from all 3 of those drivers. But Scotty McClintock, that slightly alternate strategy early on, he's the only driver that did the highest driver on 3 pit stops. Very good job from Scotty McClintock tonight.
Oh, absolutely. As far as Mark Smith's performance goes, I think you'd have to say 90% of that was the way he drove the race. But quite often you'll get yourself into that position through a fair amount of luck, is what's going on around you. Although there was a certain amount of that with other drivers, I think a lot of the result that Mark got tonight, coming in on that 3rd place on the podium, he just drove a beautifully smooth, clean race, kept out of trouble, and kept the car reasonably straight that I could see.
Yeah, he just had that speed in the latter stages as well. He seemed to be able to keep the car nice and firm for the latter stages of that race. Really, really worked out well. And Maddie Ray just letting us know in the YouTube chat that he messed up his fuel numbers, unfortunately. A big shame there for Maddie Ray. We did wonder what happened and why he did that splash and dash. Still, a top 10 finish could be much worse indeed. As we wait for the drivers to climb out of their cars, take a bit of a stretch, and jump up into the broadcast booth. That was one heck of a good race and lots of good clean racing out there tonight.
Yeah, there was a lot of clean racing. There was a lot earlier on as far as Biff and Barge, and of course we've had a couple of incidents, but really there was only one incident worth mentioning, and that was fairly early on when there was quite a few cars in it, and that as I said earlier, put out guys like Skurlock and Brad Allison, and caused quite a bit of damage to Norman Clark's car. But I mean that happens. You've got to expect it. If it doesn't, it's a bonus, especially on a track like this. The smaller tracks, there's a lot of coming together. Tracks like this, you usually have bigger, more ferocious incidents in one hit. And that's what I think we got early on. But although there was some spins and some contacts, there was a lot of good, clean racing out there, and it benefited those guys by being towards the front. As we said, Mark Smith and Button for a while there, until obviously the green flag pit stop didn't do him any favours either.
That penalty really cost Mark. That penalty really cost Button and Penley. Yeah, both of them getting a stop hold penalty of about 40 seconds. That really hurt them in the latter stages. So let us grab up some of the drivers from our top 3 tonight. So we start by flagging them up. And yes, I do have the authority to do that. So first up into the booth, we're going to welcome third place finisher Mark Smith. Mark, congratulations on a fantastic drive tonight and a well-deserved P3.
Thank you.
You had some serious pace in the long stage there. In the long stint, you really had some pace towards the end.
Yeah, I struggled on the first two stints, but the last one I got it together, so quite happy with that.
Yeah. You had more than enough pace to take the advantage of it. We saw you pass Darren McKenzie for third spot there right towards the end with a couple of laps left. So it was obvious that you had the pace over Darren. And was that just due to the tyre management earlier on after your last pit stop?
No, I just drove it totally different on the last pit stop. I drove it in harder to the corners, so I don't know why.
It definitely paid off for you. We sort of noticed on the sort of second stint as well, you seem to be going better towards the end of the stint rather than the early stages. Is that something you noticed all night long?
I just changed my driving style halfway through that stint, and it seemed to work. So,
Oh, well.
So the first two stages, you're basically saying that that was on you for the driving style, the way you were driving it, and you just decided to try something different because it wasn't working, or?
yeah, obviously. So, but it was good.
It really paid off for you tonight. It was a fantastic run. Obviously, the caution when it came out for you in the first sort of stop strategy, sticking it out a little bit longer, definitely helped out. But you sort of had pace as well out there as well.
Yeah, I had a little bit of damage after that first crash there on lap 2 or 1 or whatever it was, and yeah, I had to carry on and try and get that fixed.
Well, it obviously didn't slow you up too much, which is always a nice thing. You saw some really good on-track battling as well for yourself.
Yeah, it was running good.
Now, look, fantastic drive tonight. A really well-deserved P3 finish. 11 positions gained as well in this race. You must be pretty chuffed with that.
Yeah, it's my first top 3, so that's good.
Look, first, if you keep up with driving like that, first of many for sure. Congratulations on the top 3 tonight, Mark. We'll do the usual thing of shout out and love to sponsors.
Oh, well, thanks for Mark to take me on one of the teams there, and yeah, and all the sponsors, they're all good. So yeah, it was good fun tonight. I enjoyed myself.
I'll just jump in. He wants to thank Goodyear Wahana Auto Care, mate.
Yes. The teams, Goodyear Warana Auto Care. So they're backing that team, and Mark was able to bring those colours home on the podium.
Fantastic job. Well done again, Mark. Congratulations. I'm sure keep up like that. We'll catch you back in the booth soon.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Next up, we'll head to our second place finisher, the 35 of Mr. Joshua Carroll and JCW. Congratulations on a strong P2 finish tonight.
Cheers, Carl. Yeah, fairly, I guess, how would I describe it? A fairly, calm race tonight.
Yeah, there wasn't too much craziness out there. Had to put up some good fights though, and you had to do a lot of defensive driving and a lot of offensive driving as well.
Yeah, man. Yeah, like, particularly in the middle of the race after that second caution, where both me and Darren McKenzie were basically in the same boat of, we're all the way down and, 10th for position and 24th on track. And, we had to fight our way through. And, yeah, that took basically the whole stint. So, yeah, there was some good offensive driving. I did make a few good moves around the outside through 3 and 4, which I'm quite happy about. So, yeah, good night for wheel-to-wheel racing.
Yeah, it's never easy battling Darren McKenzie, mate. He doesn't make it easy for you, does he?
Nah. Yeah, he put up a good fight tonight, but yeah, I don't know how much of an undercut he got on me in that last round of pit stops. But yeah, he got a fair amount, and yeah, unfortunately, he just wasn't able to handle my newer tires.
It was about 4 laps difference between you two on that final stop, so that made a little bit of difference there. Obviously, that first stop when that caution came out, your heart must have sunk.
Yeah, yeah, man, it did. Because yeah, like I had a fairly good idea of what the rest of the race was going to be. Well, I mean, I thought there was going to be another caution after that because there was still over 100 laps to go. Um, and yeah, like I was disappointed and just yeah, just a bit because yeah, like I was probably going to be in the lead in about 10 laps time, and yeah, it's just the way it goes, man. You win some, you lose some, and sometimes it does go your way, and sometimes it doesn't. And yeah, it just wasn't meant to be tonight.
Let's be completely, but you ended up with a strong P2 finish. That's 1-2 for the team as well. Been a bit of a rough start of the season for yourself.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it has. Yeah, like, it's just basically me along with myself just trying to get my head around this new Gen 7 Cup car, and yeah, there've been times where I've struggled. There've been times where I've really been able to put it together well, and yeah, like um, I think I'm starting to get a good grasp on it now, but I'm not quite there yet. I'm not quite happy with my knowledge base of the Gen 7 just yet.
Yeah,
Well,
you're not alone there, mate. Actually, we've noticed over a few rounds that there are guys further back in the field that we're not used to seeing back there. In Ann's car race the other night, we were actually commenting on the way that Jason Martin appears to have had a real up and down season in the Gen 7 car. And I don't think he's made any secret out of it that he's just not happy in the car. He's not comfortable in it like he was with the previous generation. So, but you feel you're starting to come to terms with it now about how it behaves at certain tracks. And obviously, the car has its characteristics, the brakes and the tyres and stuff. We expected it to be fairly loose tonight. Did you find that on cold tyres and that early on?
Through turn 4, the car would get quite loose, and that's how Reuben got unstuck early on in the race. But yeah, like there was also at times if you pushed it too far, it would get tight. So yeah, like it was fairly nicely balanced for me anyway tonight. And yeah, like it, like there were a couple of times where I thought it was going to snap loose on me, like a couple of moments through 3 and 4 especially. But yeah, I'd say just overall it was just a not nice car, just a well balanced car for everyone tonight.
congratulations on a P2 finish. It's good to have you back up in the box as ever, Mr. Carol Walden. And before we let you go, the usual thing of shout outs and love to sponsors.
Yeah, shout out to Ed for taking a pretty convincing win tonight. Did everything he needed to do. Shout out to Norman as well. Yeah, unfortunately got caught up early with that first caution and got some big damage to the front of his car, which killed his night from the start. Shout out to Daniel Heddershoe as well. He's been really really fast. Like he just loves this Gen 7, so he's going to have a few more good results yet. And yeah, shout out to our sponsors that allow us to do what we do every week. AJD Australia and Fully Forward Limited, and yeah, shout out to Mark and all the admins for putting on the league.
Welcome. Thank you so much, JCW. Congratulations on P2 again, and I'm sure we'll see you back in the booth shortly.
No worries, thanks guys.
And finally, we will head to the winner of this race, a man that seems to be really enjoying this Gen 7 car, Edward Foster from Atari. Congratulations on the victory.
Very much.
I got to say, a bit of a commanding victory tonight.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of turned out that way. Got lucky with that first caution, obviously. And yeah, it was just from there, it was a case of just trying to manage it. still had a long way to go at that stage, but yeah, got a bit fortunate with it and was able to make the most of it. So yeah, I guess that's why I'm up here.
Obviously,
You seem to manage. We had long green periods there, and especially in the second half of the race, you seem to actually be able to get that extra couple of laps out of it over other people. We saw a lot of the other front runners, dropping in for fuel and tyres, and you just stuck it out there for another couple of laps. Did you do anything in particular to save your tyres and your fuel, or is it just you stuck to a strategy and that was it?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, most people were pitting before the tyres were actually out. Sorry, before the fuel was actually out. I think when JCW came down for his first stop, he was saying he had about 9 laps left in it. So I guess him being the first to blink, and then everyone sort of followed him, and I was just going to stay out and try and run it out and see what happened there. In terms of the tyres, it was a pretty old school sort of race, and by that I mean what you had to do to look after the tyres was very similar to the Gen 6. So I just kind of defaulted back to the way I used to drive the Gen 6, and yeah, it worked. So it was really critical on that right front. The car was pretty tight, and if you scrub that tyre too much, the car just got progressively tighter until the point that you saw how some of the guys were running through 3 and 4, and they were having to really their mid corner speed was terrible. So yeah, I sort of focused on that early on in the race. Was happy to let those guys go, um, and try to manage things a little bit better, and yeah, it paid off in the end.
Well, interestingly, tonight, everybody outside the top five was at least one lap down. I think by the time you got back to about 10th or 11th, they were 2 laps down. So it made it, well, I was going to say it makes it a little bit tight at the front when you've only got 5 cars on the lead lap because you've got so many lapped cars trying to do the right thing and keep out of the way, yet they were having their own battles right throughout the field. We were flat out keeping up with all the 2 and 4 and 6 car battles going on right throughout the field from front to back. It was a pretty exciting night. So by the time you started to lap guys through the field, did you find that there was any real issues there at all, or everybody sort of seemed to be flowing nicely?
No, I mean, when you catch a bunch of cars that are battling, you don't expect any favors. Like if a car's running on its own, you think, oh yeah, you might make space, and most of the guys did. They got on the radio and they said, hey, I'm going to say hi or whatever. But when you see a group of cars who are all having their own race and you're sort of 5, 6 seconds out the front, you don't expect them to give up what they're doing to help you out. That's not their job. So, but yeah, I mean, most guys were pretty courteous once you sort of got to them. They were smart about it. They realised that their best way of making positions was probably to actually let me go and then try and tack on my bumper and get a bit of draft past the guys they were racing. So, yeah, it's good. Some good racecraft out there, definitely. Um, and yeah, yeah, I didn't really have any problems.
sort of good battle with yourself and Darren McKenzie earlier on. A little bit of door banging going on there as well, which is always fun to see.
Yeah, yeah, it was good. Like early on when those guys sort of came up, I saw the way that they were driving, and I thought that they were probably going to suffer on tyre life. So I was quite happy to let them go earlier on, slightly the P4 there, and just let them have at it for a while and just wait for their tyres to go away. And that seemed to affect Aiden a little bit, but Darren was actually surprisingly good. He was able to drive deep into the corner and still managed to get away with not burning his tyre up too much. I did have a slight tyre advantage over him sort of midway through the stint onwards, but it wasn't really enough to fear a guy who wanted to fight. And, he obviously wanted to fight, which was absolutely fine by me. And yeah, we rubbed panels a couple of times, and I got into his rear bumper once, and that was completely accidental. I didn't even mean to do that. But yeah, he was just suffering a little bit, 3 and 4, I think, just with that mid corner speed, and it caught me out because I was able to carry a bit more pace through there. Um, but yeah, I mean, it was fun. It's a bit of a shame that the caution came out when it did because that battle could have actually run all race long. But in the end, that kind of screwed him. So yeah, unfortunate for him, but yeah, just the way it played out.
Right, well, third win of the season this year in the Weekend Warriors stroke Australian Stock Car Series Championship with custom paints and diecast. So congratulations on that. Before we let you go, the usual thing of shout out and love for your sponsors.
Yeah, so AJD and Fully Forward, as always, great to have them on board, and Custom Paint and Diecast as well, sponsoring the series. I have got a couple of their diecasts they've done up for us, Jordan there, and yeah, they're good. They've got pride of place up there on the shelf at the moment. So yeah, shout outs to all those guys, yourselves for putting the broadcast on and the series on. Yeah, it's a good way to sort of wind down across the weekend. I like it.
Congratulations again, Ed. Well done, and I'm sure we'll see you back in the booth in the near future.
Hope so. Thanks.
So, Steve, we have got another race done and dusted. The finger licking 300 is over. Next up, it will be the alligator 300. We're off to Daytona, the swamps of Florida. It's going to be an interesting one.
Oh, absolutely it will, and it's going to be something completely different from what we saw tonight. I think probably the most surprising thing for me was being a mile and a half tri-oval. There's generally, you see, at least most of the field are maintaining the same line, so you get a fair bit of follow me sort of stuff. What I think we saw tonight, everybody just seemed to have a different idea about where on the track and what line they wanted to take. We had Darren McKenzie favouring the lowest line possible and quite often following that yellow line around. And then you've got guys like McClintock who wouldn't come any further down the track if you'd held a gun to their head. JCW basically seemed to pick his line based on how far through his tyre where he was, and this sort of stuff. And we saw that right throughout the field. There were guys who favoured the inside line, guys who specifically made a point of going as far outside as possible. And even on the turns, they weren't looking for the apex. And that really sort of, I think, enhanced the racing because we had so many guys side by side tonight.
Yeah, it's really brought a new style of racing. This new Gen 7 car has definitely spiced things up. They might not be the easiest car to drive. They may not be everybody's favorite, but they are bringing us some great racing, especially at some of these shorter tracks. Will be interesting to see how it goes back at the super speedway. Of course, the old restrictor plate will be slapped on her and it will be back to some serious packed racing. And we've seen in the past, these things do well in packs. So looking forward to that one. Of course, another big thank you again to Track Racer, Custom Painted Diecast, License Me, and of course Track Cams for Gourmet tonight. Of course, Sim Shed Broadcasting, your home for the Australian Stock Car Championship Weekend Warriors. Of course, JP, what else have you got coming up this week?
Yeah, we've got a little bit coming on this week. Of course, on Monday nights, we've got the Real Sim Racing Super 2E Series. This week, they go to Mossport Park, so it should be some interesting racing. And then we back that up on Tuesday night with the Goodyear Warana Super Series. And then, of course, back on Saturday for the Custom Paints and Diecast Australian Stock Car Championship.
We look forward to seeing you all at those events. Make sure to catch up on all of the action throughout the week. And of course, we look forward to seeing you back next week for the oval side of things from myself, Carl Withy. Of course, Steve Hoppett, thank you so much for jumping up in the broadcast booth. Always a pleasure to have you up here.
Look, fantastic stuff. I've had another great night tonight in the booze with you and JP, Carl. My third commentating in a week. It's last Saturday, and then the two of us got together for the ANSCAR race on Thursday, and we're back again tonight. And I've enjoyed it. After such a long break, I think on Thursday I made the comment as becoming a habit. Well, here we go again. But no, look, it's fantastic. I've enjoyed tonight. The racing was just spectacular. And how good was it to see some of those that usually sort of mid-pack type guys getting up towards the front, Button leading, Mark Smith, the drive he put on and getting up onto the podium. McClintock was just absolutely hounding the so-called big names of the competition on their bumpers. And look, it was just fantastic racing right through the field. The guys who were even a few laps down having, as I said, 2, 4 and 6 car battles side by side. Fantastic stuff tonight. So it was well worth being here, and we had the best seat in the house, mate.
Absolutely. A big thank you, Steve Hoppett, Mad Dog Racing. And always a pleasure to call with you. And of course, JP of JP Sim Shed. Thank you so much for all the hard work and effort you do in the background. Always the unsung hero on the cameras, and the man we don't hear much of, but always does a good job. As I said myself, Carl, with you, I will wish you all a good night, and we will see you all again soon.